Feeling good, feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome in. This is a special edition of not necessarily a Timeline T or the DCMD podcast, but something I've been trying to bring together of two like-minded individuals that I've had in the past that I've worked with in this sports media landscape. A lot has been made in regards to where the landscape is when it comes to the sports media. Everyone is talking about getting their own platform, putting out original content. What is content in 2024? What does content look like? Who is making this content? Who is the people behind the scenes making this content? And how do you, as a consumer, value who do you trust as a source? And who do you trust as someone that is bringing you entertainment? How do you combine those two things? There's a lot to get into with that, but I feel as though I needed a little bit of help to help break this whole thing down. Because when you just mention new media versus old media, I've been a big proponent of new media is doing everything that old media has been doing. It's just from a different perspective, a different lens, but it's the same biased storytelling. That's been my POV, but I wanted to bring in two fellas who are definitely sports media veterans, individual independent creators, and two people that I've had the pleasure of working with who also have a foundational information of what it is to be behind the scenes in this content space, in front of a camera in this content space, and someone that has worked in the machine, as we all have worked for companies that are in this content space. So to help me break this whole thing down, I have the former host of The World with G. ESPN Radio had a great run there. He is now out doing his own independent thing. He has a whole conglomerate that he's building up locally in the great state of Tennessee, Chattanooga to be exact as the city. He is part of Chatted Up Sports, and I'm going to make sure all of his social information will be down in the link as you're watching this live or on the replay. But he is the former host of The Word with G, my guy Greg Larnard. That's my first guest. My second guest is a guest that I've had on my podcast, the DCND podcast. He, I think to this date, is still the guest I've had on for the longest running episode of the podcast. It was a stream of consciousness episode. We were talking for about seemingly 3 hours and it flew by. But he is a guy that used to get it done for NBC. He is a big time creator in the MMA space, boxing, all of that type of jazz, whatever combat sport you're into. My next guest can tap in and let you know what is what. We might get into some Tyson Paul stuff. We'll see how the conversation goes. I know he's got takes on that. But to help me along with Greg Larnard, I have my guy Ike Feldman, part of, let me make sure I have this right, GiveMeSport.com. So make sure you go and tap in with him. Again, I'll have his information down there in the link in the description. Let me get all the trips here up. Fellas, let me go ahead and unmute y'all so we can all be able to join this conversation. But for those who are watching, we have my guy Greg Larnard on the screen to the right, and we have my guy Ike Feldman on the screen to the left. Okay,
Who, me?
so make sure we're all there. There is Ike, there is my guy G. For those who have been here on the YouTube, y'all know me and G have been chopping it up. We were doing stuff around the draft, doing stuff around just football in general. And my guy Ike, big time into the combat sports. Fellas, welcome in. We're doing this a little bit different. We're all three of us been, going back and forth on text chains and stuff like that. Glad all three of us can chop it up. What's good?
Go ahead, Ike.
Doing good.
Doing good? You sure?
I see that Jets hat. I don't know how good you can be doing.
Big facts.
If you can't tell, it's all like wrinkled. I have like so many MMA hats. This is like my only like ball sport hats. Yes, the MMA people call it ball sports. Like
Pause.
That is interesting. I will definitely save that comment because there's something there when you talk about ball sports. But so fellas, look, I'm glad that y'all able to join me here. New media versus old media. It's a thing that seems to be, everyone is jumping out with a production company. Everyone is jumping out with, they want to have their version, their narratives put out there. G, as someone that used to host a show that was every day tackling the biggest sports stories locally and nationally, what has been the trend as someone that has been an individual creator, independent creator, to now a space where every former athlete thinks they can just go buy a microphone and fire up a live stream and get lit?
Yeah, I mean, essentially they can. Like that's what the game has become nowadays. Of it's not about what you know and the stuff and the content and the context of what you're talking about. It's really just about, hey, who are you? Do you have a big social media following? Can you get people to watch and participate in what you're doing? And if you're a former athlete, it is that simple. Like everybody can set up a podcast or a live stream or a YouTube channel or Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it may be, whatever your platform choice is. It's so simple to go out there, and especially if you have the notoriety like a former athlete would, former all-star, something like that, big name, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to tap in. And all you have to do to get attention, Sam and Ike, as you guys know, is say something crazy, and everybody's going to glom into it, and then everybody's going to start paying attention to you. And it seems like that's where we're, yeah, all about the ball sports. And it just seems like that's the way of the world nowadays. And Sam, I know you and I have had many conversations on and off the air about this, and it's really tough because it's like everybody's just going out there to talk about whatever they want to talk about, throwing out random ass stuff about different sports and opinions just to get clicks, views, likes, whatever it may be. And then everybody else, all the other sports shows are going to start talking about them. So yeah, it's been an interesting sort of transition just for me. And by the way, I appreciate you having me on. I let Ike go real quick, but I did want to say I appreciate you having me jump on. I love to be on here with you guys. And
Anytime,
I miss our weekly check-ins on the Word with G, the Sam D, the DL segment, Ike, our segments on the show, talking all the combat sports, and it was always a good time. I do miss the Word with G. I hope to bring it back at some point in some capacity. I don't know if and when that's going to happen, but right now, just really focusing on the Chatted Up sports and doing that show and building that up with my boys here in Chattanooga, and really trying to tap in locally to what's going on with the great city of Chattanooga. And it's been a wild ride so far, going from ESPN Chattanooga, and I know we're going to go into the depths of what happened there with the station and all that, but it's been a fun avenue, and I know Sam's been kind of getting at me lately for a while now about, hey, this might be the move. Go on your own. Go independent, because this might be the way of the world. And
Right.
So I do appreciate the push in the right direction. It seemed like you spoke it into existence, and that's where we're at right now. And yeah, it's just crazy the way that media is right now, that anybody can really start something up. And again, if you're a former athlete, you got the notoriety, you got a platform, you can create the platform, and you can just go talk your talk. And people are going to listen.
For sure. And I, to tee it up for you, I think, you're coming from a angle of, you were someone that was a mixed martial artist. You were someone that has practiced the craft and has worked his way up and has actually competed. How have you seen the switch going from, not just someone that started off in radio behind the scenes or worked your way up there, but then dabbling into actually being a competitor, to now kind of like, I don't know what space you really consider yourself now, but where you could kind of go both ways, to where you can like actually jump in and give the perspective of a actual mixed martial artist, but then can also give commentary as someone that is also well versed as a commentator.
Yeah, I see myself as like a mini version of Joe Rogan. He competed in Taekwondo Junior Olympics at a high level, and black belt in jiu-jitsu later in his 30s. And it's like you have these UFC champions, 2 division champions, longtime champions working the desk with him, and they respect him. So that's kind of the goal. I respect Rogan for doing the podcast side, the MMA side of things, also training as well as commentating. So I think that's kind of the template to go by. But yeah, the UFC, whenever they shell out guests, they're always throwing that to the fighter, like, oh no, don't worry, this guy's not gonna instigate or try to squeeze a quote as much as my company wants the quotes. They're like, no, he trains too, he understands the space. That's why I believe in the long run, I will be better than Ariel Helwani. I will be better than the Brett Okamotos. Like I think it's just a matter of time and patience. And it's cool, man. When I left WFAN, the falling back on the Ictagon, like Ictagon, just the perfect segue to be a content creator, a personalized content creator, and that is doing its own thing locally, trying to cover Long Island locally with the Ictagon stuff. But Greg and his team have no doubt about it. We've seen the success of the Sam D podcast, but Chatted Up Sports, it's just a matter of time. Like Greg, talented, has done the walk. It's like, dude, what'd you do? 3 or 4 hours a day, every day? Like that is no joke experience. So, two.
Yeah.
Just say
some days it was 3. Some days it was 3. And then when I was in Louisiana, it was 3 for about a year. So yeah, we've done many streams of content over the years in terms of local live shows for long periods of time. And I think the biggest thing in like thinking about like what each of us does, and Sam, I know you before we did the show, like I was thinking about you specifically because well, Sam does his own he does his own content, man. He's out here grinding by himself, and I'm like, man, I'm exhausted trying to put up content for like 5 of us, and like there are 5 of us that can do content and do different things if we try to build this thing into a business. Because the biggest thing for us here in Chattanooga was that Chattanooga is now left void of sports talk radio, essentially, with the selling off of ESPN Chattanooga. Like, there's one other sports talk radio show in the city, and it's from 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. That's it. I was the only midday show in town, but still, we had ESPN radio on. So if somebody locally wanted to say, hey, I don't have Sirius XM radio. Maybe I want to listen to local stuff, but I also like to hear the national stuff going on. Okay, I can listen to ESPN radio, and then from 12 to 2, oh, okay, I'm getting the word with G. Okay, we're going to start to talk about some local stuff, the Mocs, the Vols, the Titans, the Falcons, whatever else. Maybe a little Braves in here, unfortunately, during baseball season. But then, you got the high school football show or the high school sports show that we did on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you had a 3 to 6 show in the afternoon with our boys David and Wells on Press Row. So there was a lot of content there sports-wise locally going on. And then they just got rid of the station. So it's like there's a void here in Chattanooga, and there's a thirst for sports content and sports media in this city. You can feel it when you're here, and everybody appreciates what you do. And I think they appreciate it a little bit more when you're gone. And now we've tried to sort of take advantage of that with Chatted Up Sports, because I'll be honest with y'all, I was in a weird place, when this whole thing got going. I was telling Ike a little bit about it off the air. Sam knows all about my personal struggles off the air, and now professional, situation going on. And it's just been a really interesting time in my life personally with relationships.
Like, Greg, no, don't do the OnlyFans. You're better than that. You're better.
I mean, but there is a market there. So, ladies,
there is a market.
There might be. There might be some feet finders. Who knows? Anyways,
all sport lovers.
But yeah, no, there was definitely a void here in Chattanooga, and when I got this opportunity to coach softball here with the UTC softball program, I said, you know what, I'd be hard pressed to find some better friends and some better, a better place to live. Obviously, I love you guys, and I love living in the Northeast and in New York and Connecticut and whatnot. But it just seemed like my favorite part of that show on The Word with G was our Feel Good Friday content, along with our Wednesday show with Sam, obviously. But this was just, hey, we were live and in person. We were just chopping it up like friends on a daily basis or on a weekly basis on Fridays. And that was one of my favorite parts of the show. So I said, hey, why don't we take that and see if we can make it here and fill that void? Now, it would be a little weird if ESPN Chattanooga was still going on and I just got let go. But now that ESPN Chattanooga is no more, it's like, okay, cool. Like, we've got that freedom to just let it loose and open up and really try to go out there and cover Chattanooga and really whatever we want. Like, that was the biggest thing that Sam always pushed on me was, hey, yeah, you can do local stuff because you want to service the local community, but also you can talk your talk about whatever you want to talk about. There's different things going on, and you have no constraints now.
Yeah, that's the hugest part for me when it comes to being part of. I don't know if we're considered new or old media, right? Because like all 3 of us came up in old media, traditional media, but we all 3 of us have pivoted and have become varying degrees of independent creators in this new media space. And I think that's why the three of us kind of have a unique perspective to be able to come together and just have these ideas and have these thoughts and kind of chat about, no pun, about what's going on in the industry. And I think with what G is doing, building that group, having that conglomerate in a market, and watching, laying the foundation and then building upon that, I think that's very important. Like, and it takes time. I think that's the thing where when you have these former athletes, they could just wake up and they already have a following already. They already have a massive audience, or at least access to one if they're a former athlete. And they're able to just start a production company or start a YouTube channel and run the numbers up right away just because they're giving locker room stories, or they're giving exclusive access, or if you're like Dwayne Wade's podcast, you're having the point fraud Chris Paul pull up and he's telling stories that he's never told before because that's his boy for the last 25 years. So from this side of it to where we're independent creators and we're all building our own individual things, but yet we're still able to come together like this and help each other build this, I think is the true new media, because you don't have to be a journalist. You don't have to be a reporter. You don't have to have a million years towing away behind the scenes and building up all these sources. You can go to Twitter and find a source. You can go to Instagram and somebody could DM you, and now that person becomes a source. Or if you're Ike, you're outside, you're at these events and you're networking with people at these events and you're developing your own sources. It's not just a traditional way of how things are done. So I'll go to Ike here. Ike, as you are now building your own network, your own circling, you're going to these events and you're building your own brand. What has been the biggest obstacle in terms of, doing it that way, where you don't have, a million followers that are just willing to go with you wherever you go? How has that process been? As you're credible, you're talented, and me and Greg can co-sign that, but you're trying to prove to these other folks within the industry that you are as talented as we know you are.
Well, the first obstacle locally that I've run into is that you can't piss them off. It's not some Russian fighter, Brazilian fighter. It's like there's some guy who like knows where you live, knows the gym you train at. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, I'm way more like, hey man, take me through your journey. What got you into martial arts? There's none of that like, what's up, slap nuts? Talk to me about. It's like no. This can come back to me. So I've learned to be more, and that's come with having a kid, having multiple kids, and just maturity. As crazy that is to hear coming out of my mouth. In terms of
Facts.
the market, it's man, like the big picture and for the Give Me Sport, it's like, man, I can't screw this up. I had chances at WFAN, I had chances at NBC. It's like now I'm with this British company. I don't want to be no bloke. I don't want to give no cheeky takes. So it's respecting the platform and not thinking that I know everything more than the 60-year-old executive knows everything.
So with that, like, because you've had chances at outlets, do you feel as though, and I'll run this down the line to all of us, and I can certainly vouch for this, but do you think you were giving a legitimate opportunity at those other places, especially like the WFAN, where you had opportunities, but maybe they weren't ready for what where the industry was going? So it was kind of a thing of, well, we'll give you this opportunity, but when it pops, when it blows, we don't have no infrastructure to help support you to get where the industry was naturally going on its own.
Some of that, but most of being stubborn. Like, guys, I know that. Like hearing some guy he's like, oh, that Conor McGregor is fighting, and the Shish Khabib Nurmagomedov. Like, I'm
Right.
like, all right, if you just give me the freaking steering wheel. I've learned patience. I've learned patience. Goose fraba. So yes, maturity.
And Greg,
I don't know.
you're someone who obviously is just coming off the whole ESPN radio thing, and obviously it was local. But as you mentioned earlier, me and you had numerous conversations about, yes, satisfy the local audience, but you have a chance to build a national voice, to talk about national stories. What do you feel were the constraints of working in that type of environment where, yes, you had to primarily focus on the local market because it is a local station, so you understand that, but with so many stories going on and you wanted to build off of your career and mature and grow and get better as a not just a local talent but as a potential national talent, what were some of the constraints and the obstacles you had to face?
I think what you guys were just talking about in terms of the infrastructure, like you were talking about with Ike, with the Ike Tagon podcast and the show and things like that with FAN, and not really understanding like where the medium is going and understanding the sports talk radio or sports media industry, I think was just sort of like a big thing. And like there were only two of us full-timers on ESPN Chattanooga, and that makes it very difficult to sort of go around and cover all of the things that you want to cover. And I get it from a local perspective, and might be something that I needed to take some time to learn, sort of like, Ike was talking about earlier, of taking the time and the patience and the understanding and all that. But it's really about building from within. If you want to get to a certain spot, you have to own the local market that you're in, and you can expand out. But it really just comes down to, when you're talking about a local market and a local radio station, it sort of needs to be that balance, and you need to have sort of that vision of, hey, like, yeah, we're gonna do local stuff, but are also going to say, hey, look, for me, I'm a sports person. Like, I understand what listeners want to hear and what they want to listen to and things like that, and what is going to drive, again, some listeners and some interaction. Because to me, that was the biggest miss of the interaction just wasn't there. And the singular platform of only focusing on just being on the radio, where we could have had a setup with video, and we could have had different things to get to different people. And I think the biggest thing from the Barrett Sports Media Summit that you and I went to, Sam, was you have to meet people where they're at. Like, that is the biggest thing. Like, everybody nowadays has a dang-gone phone. Everybody has a phone. And not everybody's going to have the ESPN Chattanooga app. So what do you need to do? Right. You need to be on social media. You need to create reels and content and give them a reason to say, hey, look, I like this guy's take, or this guy's an idiot. I need to hear what he has to say because I need to go and I need to set him straight, or whatever it may be. Like, you just need to meet these people where they're at. And I think that was sort of the biggest thing. And now that I'm kind of creating this content on my own, it's like, hey, we're really putting an emphasis on where we've got the video element, we've got the podcast element, where the audio, and now we're able to grab these clips, we're able to cut them up. Like, now we have the help. There's literally 5 of us that can do these things. And for us, for example, like, we're still servicing the local community. We had a local high school basketball team. I think they won like their first ever state championship. And we're literally going to go out to the school on Thursday. We're going to sit down with the coach. We're going to sit down with the kids. We might hoop around with them. We're going to interview them, just hang out with them and just kind of get to know each other and really focus on this big thing that just happened in Chattanooga here locally. And you guys were talking about it earlier. We don't have the notoriety. Like, we will get there at some point, but for us, it's a little bit more difficult. Like, we got to build this shit brick by brick by brick. And so you lay that solid foundation, and then you continue to build up, and people say, hey, look, I know these people. They put out good content, or they're trustworthy. And I know Sam and I have had many conversations about, like, putting out true content versus putting out false narratives or just crazy shit that is going to get clicks and likes and whatnot, and just being as real and authentic about your takes as you possibly can be. Because if you come off fake, or you say something you don't mean, and then you turn around and kind of maybe say something counter to that, and people listen to you, they're going to pick up on that. And that's a good way to lose credibility with your audience. And so I think those are some of the biggest things, like, that I learned and going through this process. Like, I've loved the 2 places that I was at with ESPN 1420 in Lafayette, Louisiana, and then obviously being here in ESPN Chattanooga. Do I wish some things were done differently? Of course I do. I think any of us that has worked for a company or something like that wishes things were a little bit different. But I love the opportunity that I had, and now I'm getting an opportunity to do content the way I wanted to do it. And, it's never a bad thing when you get this handsome mug on camera as well. And I think that was a big opportunity missed.
For sure. I think that's something, obviously me and you have talked about in regards to getting yourself out there. How do you, push outside of the realms of the limited reach of potentially what your old employer was. And I think that leads me right into one of the main points I want to get into with the two of you is seeing a landscape where we have Shannon Sharp, massive, killing the game from a podcast perspective, live stream perspective.
Can I get a quick timeout? Can I get a
Sure.
quick timeout? The folks need to hear from you, because I wanted to ask you about your situation
Sure.
and going out and doing content on your own as well in the platforms that you've built up. You've done a freaking hell of a job building up your YouTube channel, your podcast. Like you went from like the pick and pop to the Sam D. Like you've had to, duck and jive and move all around and do all these different things. This man is a student of the game in terms of like learning about the industry, learning about what works. Like you see this crispy setup that we're on right now. Like this didn't happen by accident. Like talk to me a little bit about all the stuff that you've had to do and going this own lane that you've chose as well, and dealing with some of the struggles that you've had to deal with trying to be an on-air talent in various places, if you can.
No, and obviously always thank you for turning it to me, because sometimes I forget that I'm more than just someone pivoting and asking questions. I certainly can answer them as well. No, I think for me, obviously I've been trying to pod, I've been trying to break through them and trying to find a way to find what my lane is. My lane was never going to be a traditional talking head type person. My lane was always going to be a little different. So, starting out with my own podcast way back in the day when I first started at WFAN, when I was just the dog pound, and then pivoting to where I was doing my own individual content for FanDuel, and having the opportunity to host a podcast on FanDuel. This is the first go around before all the betting companies blew up, when the New York State Attorney General shut down legalized sports betting in New York. That kind of took away an opportunity that I was starting to build my name as a creator, as a co-host of a FanDuel endorsed podcast, talking DFS basketball every single day. That was a huge thing that I was thinking this could be my opportunity to finally get a chance to blow. But once that all went to shit, I kind of had to pivot and understand, all right, well, I do have an audience now that heard me on this FanDuel podcast. How can I now keep them and not just piss away this whole opportunity and act like it just never happened? So that's kind of how Pick and Pop got birthed, because it came out of the necessity. I had nowhere else to go. I didn't have another opportunity after the FanDuel thing fell apart. So did the Pick and Pop, and that kind of was a monster. It was something that I never put that much work into any one thing. I had did prior podcasts and projects before, but I literally did everything from, imaging and producing it and editing it and all. It was the first time I really went one man band on it. Like, I don't want no help. I'm just going to do it all myself. So if it sucks, it's me. If it's popping, then it's me too. So it's like, I really just put the emphasis on myself, and it was able to build up. But then as you know, at some point I felt as though I was just being known as a basketball guy, as an NBA guy, because Pick and Pop was just purely just NBA talk. And I felt like that was like putting constraints on me. And I never looked at myself as a one-trick pony. I never looked at myself as someone that can only talk basketball, when my whole life, and especially when it comes to sports, I've talked everything. I've talked football, I've talked baseball, I've talked soccer, I've talked hockey. Like, I don't want that constraint. So the pivot was to make it just all sports. So I had to drop the Pick and Pop name. Plus, I found out a lot of people had trademarked the term Pick and Pop. So I was like, okay, financially, business-wise, that's not going to work. So how can I come up with something that is uniquely my own? The Sam D. So just moniker my own name and lock in my own name, and just built that platform off of that. And you've been gracious enough to have me on your platform to push that. And I was able to get nominated for a couple of Black Sports Podcast Awards for Black Sports Podcast of the Year 2 years in a row. So it's something where doing it all myself it really showed the fruit of the labor that I put in. I really got that return on that investment. And YouTube was just the latest thing. This was something that was birthed out of the pandemic. Out of the pandemic, I was stuck in the crib working remote, and I had all these takes that I wanted to get out, but I also wanted to do like different content. So got a camera. Then I had to learn video editing. Then I had to learn, well, what microphone do I need and all of that stuff. Like if you go back and look at my first videos on here, they are trash now. But I needed something to start. I just needed to start somewhere and be able to build up on what I have today. So as an independent creator, as G knows, and I think Ike knows as well, I've been told no a lot. I've been told you're not good enough in this lane. You're not good enough in that lane. I've had opportunities taken away. I've had opportunities sabotaged. I've had a lot of things from higher ups in this industry that have kept telling me, nope, you don't fit the bill. No, it's not you. You don't have it, et cetera, et cetera. Except when I do things like this, when I do content with y'all two individually or just on my own, the numbers tell me something different. When I'm able to put up views on every single platform I'm on, when I'm able to run the numbers up and talk my talk and not contrived, I know if I say this thing, it'll go type thing. I could literally just say what I always been saying and it generates views. That tells me something different. So G, always grateful for you to allow me to get my shit off.
Yeah, dude.
I think though, because of that, because we see people running the numbers up, because we see the old guard like a Kellen Cowherd, like a Stephen A, and unfortunately some people not putting up what they used to put up in a Skip Bayless, either one of y'all, walk me through what you've seen in the traditional media. How have they evolved? How haven't they evolved? Who has done it the best? Who needs work? I mean, it's kind of obvious that Skip needs it, but is there anybody else that you feel is kind of not living up to what they used to put up? How has traditional media not evolved with the times?
First and foremost, I feel like, Sam, you are the man. I do love every time I come across your stuff on social. You are in the orbit of the algorithm. Love the car stuff as well. At first, I was like, "What? Sam talking Teslas?" And then
Yeah.
it's growing on me, man. It's like
Thank you, bro.
you actually like you're giving me confidence. Like, oh, can I talk about video games or can I talk about like some
Yes,
other
the
stuff?
answer is yes.
It's like, you know what? Why not? If it's not hurting
Yeah,
somebody and it's potential good content, why the fuck not?
for sure.
But in terms of somebody who has plateaued, in my opinion, I think Colin Coward, man. I think like making it to the Fox, that like spaceship desk that he's on, was an amazing achievement. But I think he's kind of coasted. I feel like his producers are probably well paid, maybe knocking on the door of six figures, and they're feeding him lines. Maybe he just shows up and just grabs the ball and take it from there. But you could see the holes in his game. Shout outs to Funhouse for always punching the holes in his game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy for Chris Russo. I feel like he matches Stephen A. Smith's craziness. For a minute, that was really good stuff. And like the Wally Pip thing, like he started like leaning into those like Whitey Ford type of like Joe Namath, like
Right.
that was his thing. I thought that was fun. Skip, man, he just, you can wear the miserableness on your face, and it's like he's screwing up, man. The Damar Hamlin was a bad take. Shannon Sharp seems like he's on the great path. I would love to see Shannon and Stephen A. do a lot more stuff. But yeah, that's what I got on the big wigs. Are you guys fans of Rosenberg? I know he like ruffles a lot of feathers, but I'm like, I see what he is. Peter Rosenberg, the Hot 97 host, and obviously the ESPN Michael K co-host. Like, I'm
Um,
because he's kind of humanized. The whole joke that Carton would always say, Craig Carton would always say to Boomer Esiason, "I'm here to humanize you and humble you." I feel like that's what Rosenberg does to Michael K. Like Michael K tries to be quote unquote hip.
yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. Like I think as a third mic, I think he's there to kind of bring the funny, bring the entertainment, bring the levity. Whereas LeGrec is a hot taker. He's the voice of the fan. And then you have Michael K, who is like the established Yankee guy forever. Like he's an established broadcaster. So when you have those two dudes who could get very serious, very deep in the weeds at times, you need someone who could just kind of break the ice and just kind of like shatter the whole serious talk, and let's kind of just make this fun. Let's make this light. And I think that's where Rosenberg comes in. I'm not necessarily a fan of what he does from a sports perspective. I obviously have known about him from hip hop and Hot 97. So I know of him, and he definitely has the acumen there. Sports stuff, to me, it always comes off as you're kind of just letting the caller be a third mic, which is fine. It works. You know what I'm saying? Like the numbers bear out. So obviously the show needed something, and he was able to bring a little boost. But gee, what do you think of the format of having an established professional broadcast guy, then you have a serious hot take voice of the fan guy, and then you bring in someone like Peter Rosenberg who kind of shake things up?
Well, obviously I haven't lived in the Northeast in a while, so I haven't listened to the show in a very long time. But I did used to listen to 98.7 when I was living in Connecticut and in New York and whatnot. It was between them and the fan, and kind of going back and forth. And obviously a lot of things have changed since I left. But you guys live there. You guys still, I don't know how much you listen to them at this point in your lives or whatnot. I know, Sam, you don't, but I'm sure Ike does still. And Carton's back, as you kind of mentioned. I know he was there when I was working at the Fan, and then got into some trouble, and obviously was able to come back, but not with Boomer.
Got into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
I know. I'm downplaying it, obviously, but no, I feel like I like the breakup of having the hardcore sports talkers, and then somebody to just sort of come in and be the fun uncle, as I like to call them, and just sort of be random. Like, that's what we have on our Chat It Up show. Like, me, Chase, and Miggy, like, are the guys that are going to, like, give you, like, sports takes, and we're going to get in the weeds, and we're going to talk about it and whatnot. And then we have our buddy Garrett Tolley, who he knows sports to a certain degree, but just not the ins and the outs like me, Chase, and Miggy do. And so he's there to sort of be that Peter Rosenberg, break things up, and he knows pop culture and things like that. So I like that format. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved having my own show and my brand, the word with G, the whole thing. But I have always thought that the sports talk format and the sports media format is better when you have multiple voices, because you're able to just bounce stuff off of each other, and you're able to continue conversations. Like, when you're sitting in a studio, and I did this for 6.5 years, sitting in a studio, by and large, most of the time. Now, I would always have guests, and like Ike and Sam and a bunch of other people on. But for the most part, by and large, for 6.5 years, I sat in a studio by myself, in a box by myself, with no producer, no co-host, just me, and not all the time a lot of callers, because obviously you're in smaller markets. The callers aren't flooding. Like, I remember producing like the overnights for the Fan, and you could have Mark Malusis just sort of sitting there like this with his hand on his face in his hand, and just taking calls and just doing the show. Like, he could just like, hey, the Mets game from tonight, let's talk about it. And then people would flood in still, even in the overnight. So, like, I don't want to downplay what people do in a major market, because obviously you have to be good in order to get that opportunity. But it almost feels like sports talk radio is almost easier in a huge market, because one, there's so much to talk about, and two, if you wanted to, like Sam was talking about before, like, you could have the caller be like your co-host. Like, you could literally just sit there and take calls. Like, Francesa used to sit there and just take calls incessantly. Like, it was insane. Like, that was like his co-host once Mad Dog went and did his own thing. Like, he just racked up the calls left, right, and center. And I'm not saying like that's a bad form of radio, but I like when you have a co-host and a host, and then maybe you got some producers to bounce some stuff off of. Like, I love what Pat McAfee does with him and his boys, and they are just funny. They're yucking it up. They're having a good old time. You got guys behind the scenes cutting shit up and, answering phone calls or doing whatever, getting guests on and, creating content for the show. I think that's the future of sports media and sports talk radio and whatnot. And I kind of like that avenue rather than sort of the old media as well, like we kind of were talking about before. I kind of like where that is going. And you had sort of Dan Patrick, who did it first with him and like the rest of his guys behind the scenes. And now you hear Greeny start to do it even more with, hey, he's the main host, but Hembo's there, and other guys behind the scenes. And he includes all the different producers and everybody who works on a show. Yeah, Le Batard with Stu Gatz. Yeah, like I know he's huge, but I never really listened to him outside of sports when he was on ESPN radio. I haven't listened to him since, but I know people love him, and it works. Like Stugatz is a perfect co-host for what Dan Lebatard does. You have Stuart Scott, or not Stuart Scott, it was Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve, like on SportsCenter. Like that shit just works. Like it's so much better when you have somebody to bounce some stuff off of and to continue the conversation and just bring up random stuff. Because I'll tell you what, fellas, I know you've all done it. Sam, I know you do it with the timeline tee and whatnot, but it is difficult to sit there for however many hours a day. I know you would do your show every single day. Like it's difficult to sit there by yourself and talk about whatever you're going to talk about, maybe with no calls, and just talk and talk and talk. At least I had breaks on like terrestrial radio. You were just going and going and going and going.
Yeah, it was definitely a thing. Like especially like live streaming, like you said, there's no breaks, and then sometimes you don't know who's there and who isn't. Like sometimes I've noticed like when it'll tell me how many people are watching, sometimes even that number is not accurate. So you're not even sure if the numbers you're seeing are the numbers. Like, am I literally just talking to myself, or am I talking to 15 people, 15, 20, 5? Like, how many people are actually watching this right now? And to your point, I think that's exactly what the industry has decided. Like, the ensemble cast is the way to go. And I think here, coming up with like Stephen A. Smith, like he's building a brand outside of ESPN. McAfee did it on his own. He built a brand outside of ESPN. You have former athletes getting together. When we look at the Pivot built their own brand outside of a traditional media network and built their own thing. And they're kind of an ensemble where there's multiple players coming down. Brandon Marshall's still trying to figure it out with I Am Athlete. He's had a whole bunch of different guys coming in and out of that lineup. So I think that's where the industry is at. And I think everyone has decided, you know, the Francesa show from 1 to 6:30, just banging out calls. One, that's a hard lesson today in this day and age. Like back in the day, we had no other outlets. We had no other options. Now we can go on TikTok and find a creator, someone that speaks more directly to what we're looking for. We can go onto YouTube and search and find a creator that we're looking for. We could go on Twitter and read a bunch of stuff that's more pertinent to what we're looking for. Whereas back in the day, we just had Mike and Chris from 1 to 6:30, and that was supposed to be where we got the bulk of our information or opinions or big time guests coming on. Now, literally anywhere, anyone like the three of us could be doing content that's more directly appropriate to the audience, more so than someone just banging out calls from 1 to 6:30 Monday to Friday.
Yeah, and look at what McPherson, that McPherson kid, did with FAN, like replacing Steve Summers. Like he wasn't a big time name or anything like that in the sports talk radio realm. He did a podcast. That was literally it. Like I don't think he had done live radio since like he was in college, and somehow he gets an opportunity and jumps on right into like the night shift of FAN, replacing an absolute legend who we've all worked with Steve Summers. It's crazy.
Yeah, it truly is. And I think that's where the next crop of creators going to come from. Like you mentioned the summit we went to early last year. I didn't meet a lot of people, but the people that I've met, I've been in contact with them. I've stayed in contact with them. I've watched them do their own independent content. And, just being privy of people from different parts of the country and being able to link with them and build with them and see what they're doing and kind of picking their brains to understand, like, that's the whole thing that now the internet has provided. Whereas back in the day, all we knew was the tri-state area. All we were aware of was the tri-state area. But now, because of the internet, because of these apps and these platforms, I'm now able to, meet up with people that are in the Midwest. I'm able to build with people that are in the South. I'm able to build with people in other countries just because I've put myself out there from a content perspective and just putting myself out there and giving my opinions and speaking my truth. And then you get that feedback. And that feedback, you just never know who's out there watching. You never know who the algorithm is going to push your content to. And, Ike, I'll go to you, especially in the combat sport world, where it is literally an international entity. There's fighters from all parts of the world. How has that experience been for you to be able to navigate through those different circles where it's not just about as you're building on the scene in New York, but you're I'm assuming potentially building with people all over the world.
I'm huge in Singapore.
Whatever pays, baby.
That's it. That's
Like
it.
that's one of the biggest download countries they got on.
Nice.
And
Let's go.
they are the host country for one championship. But yeah, I was interviewing for a position with Fox Sports. This lady is the recruiter. She was so proud. She's like, "Yeah, I hired Michael Vick." I was like, "Oh, okay," and I was like, "You gonna hire me?" I was like, "Please." But I said, yeah, I believe that MMA will take over soccer or football worldwide. And the lady goes, first of all, we have a contract with them, so watch your mouth. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. But you get my point. Like, I think
Right.
it's going to be the biggest sport in the world. Dana White says it best. As much as I can't stand Dana White, and I think the Adam Silver, Roger Goodell era of MMA is knocking on the door, you know, like the lawyer, the clean cut
Mm-hmm.
guy. You can't be
Y'all
having
need
a
it,
guy,
man.
Stephen A. Smith, saying my brother, he didn't mean to smack his wife. It's like,
It's
what?
weird.
What? Are you kidding me?
But
Are
we
you
all know that
kidding?
there's a contract there, so you know.
Ah. But my point is, Dana White says if there's a quadrant of sports, basketball, football, baseball, and then a fight breaks out, everybody's going to look at the fight. It's like it's in our DNA, it's in our instincts. And I believe that, man. Like, there will never be another Conor McGregor, but I think the UFC is trying to get to the point where we can just have these quiet killers who I barely speak any English, but I will murder you. That's the era that we're about to enter, where it's like I've never heard Mbappe, I've never heard Neymar speak. I don't even think Cristiano. I don't think I've heard any soccer star, but I know the face. I know the cover of FIFA. I think MMA is headed towards that. So, what do I have to do to connect more internationally? Is tone down my Long Island accent. That's basically it.
Long
Well,
Island.
let's stay close to there, right? So we see what Ngannou was able to do, even though he got laid the fuck out by Anthony Joshua, but he cashed out in the process over a couple of boxing fights that probably would have took him years to make in the UFC. So where do you see that going from the perspective of, as you mentioned, the Dana White's come under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of controversy coming with, you know, the video that was leaked and the lack of, you know, seemingly enforcement of punishment towards that. He obviously has a stranglehold on that sport. Fighters aren't getting the best, you know, value in terms of earning the type of money that they're bringing in for the company. They're not able to bring home a good chunk of that money. Do you see the sport potentially in the UFC specifically, do you see the sport trending towards a way where they might lose more big time fighters because they see what Ngannou has done and the Pauls, even though they're not really real fighters, but they've been able to cash out and make bread? What danger could UFC be in with what we've seen from what Ngannou was able to do and what the Pauls have been able to do?
I think you guys are seeing it from the golf side with the Live Golf. The Saudis, like they're making these boxing fights happen. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, Francis Ngannou, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder were supposed to fight Anthony Joshua. Like the Saudis, man, they just have like they're just throwing the money. Like 25 million to them is nothing, and it's like John Jones, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor hasn't fought because he's trying to get 25 million to come back and fight. And it's like these Saudis, like it's just like figurines for them just to put these fighters, get these fights going. So I think what could be a real player, which could level the playing field, PFL, which is like a tier or two down from the UFC, they're involved with the Saudis. If the Saudis can like say like, hey, your minimum wage will be 500K, you could fight up to 40 million if you're Francis Ngannou. Hey Connor, hey Nate, hey Israel Adesanya, come over to our
Right.
league. Things could get very interesting if the Saudis really back the PFL.
That is interesting to me because that's the part of sport that I want people to focus more on. It's like if you follow the money, you can see how capitalist this
That's all I
whole
say. Somebody's
thing
like, "How should
is.
I pick fights?" I go, "Follow the money." They want Sean O'Malley to win. They want the
Exactly.
guy Ilya Taporia to win. The good-looking guy who represents Spain and Georgia. Just follow the money.
Yeah, sometimes it truly just is that, and I think we've been spoiled, or we have such different perspective because, like in the NFL, we see a whole bunch of cap casualties where guys are getting cut. Russell Wilson's a former Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's making peanuts because the Broncos are paying over $100 million to tell him to go away, and Justin Fields can get
Are they
traded for
ever
a
going to get rid of?
six-round pick.
Are they ever going to get rid of the cap? Like, I feel like the NFL is just grow. Dude, Mexico,
If
Canada,
Dog,
UK,
if the players union had any
Germany.
balls, that would be exhibit A on their agenda in the next collective bargaining agreement. But because they have no balls,
Pat
ball
Mahomes
sport.
should make more than Cristiano. I mean, I guess Cristiano Ronaldo is a bigger star.
How about this?
Yeah, I was gonna say Florida, or excuse me, soccer is super international.
Yeah. How about he should make the most money in the sport? He doesn't even make the most money in the sport. He doesn't even have the highest average per year.
Somebody make more than the per year? Somebody.
Yeah, he's only getting $45 million. There's like 7 QBs who make more than that now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
insane.
that's the problem in itself. Like the NFL generates $27 billion in revenue, and it's growing every year. Like and they're still getting peanuts. Like the whole
Can you
thing
guys
with
break down this tackle? What the hell is this new rule? I'm sorry. Like,
The freaking hip thing, the hip
hip
drop.
drop, the hip drop. Well,
What's the hip
here's
drop?
something. I actually have a wee bit of a controversial take. I'm actually in favor of it. And I've never been that guy. And G knows this. I've never been, hey, the NFL is doing something right. Like I've never been that guy. But this is something where I'm actually going to say, I think the NFL is actually doing something right because I know for a fact, towards the end of last year, and I was locked in on the Ravens because of this YouTube channel has become like a safe haven for Ravens fans. Mark Andrews and Lamar both got hurt in 2 different games towards the end of the seasons, both off hip drop tackles.
So
now,
it's your body hits the floor first, and then you pull the guy
and then
second.
you twist. Yeah. It's the twisting to me. I don't know if you feel different, but to me, it's the impact of getting hit in the hip and you have to drop. But because of these fields and the shitty fields in the NFL, you don't get a lot of give. So you can twist that ankle, you can twist that knee pretty easily with the hip drop.
How are people going to tackle anymore? That's my question. Like, that's not something, I feel like that's not like grabbing the nameplate, or that's not like the horse collar tackle or anything like that. It feels like sort of like almost like a regular tackle that like your momentum, you're going so fast and these guys are so large and so strong that like, it's not like they're trying to do this. It's just sort of like how maybe the guy goes down or how they got hit. Like, so my big thing is like, all right, well, now this puts a lot of onus on the referees, and now there's going to be a lot of hate that's coming towards the referees again of, all right, this is a call that's very subjective to the specific referee, kind of like the roughing the passer call, and did he land with his full body weight on him or not, or did he hip drop him or twist him? I mean, it's just, it's opening up a can of worms to like so many more questionable calls and so many more subjective calls based on whomever's refereeing these games. Like, I get what you're saying, Sam, of, hey, it's an injury thing. Like, we're trying not to have these sort of illegal tackles. But, you know, it just feels like we're getting closer and closer to flag football with some of these rules.
I was just looking at the clips, the breakdowns of the tackle. A lot of the times it's like the tight end, the receiver is running past the tackler, and they're like reaching back to grab them. Like they've already been blown past them. So ruling
How
that
do you tackle somebody then?
Square up.
it's just going to be the guy
you can't, you're
down
beat.
at the
And you
higher
got to find
end.
a way to
You're
get
beat.
them down. Well, you got to find a way to get them down. Like, if you were
In
there
the goal
within
line.
arm's reach, you just have to like find a way to tackle them. Like, I saw somebody post about like Kevin Dyson getting tackled at the goal line in that Rams Titans Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Was that a hip drop? Like, I mean, he wasn't burned, but like he sort of twisted him down, but it didn't look egregious. Like, it's just going to open up a can of worms, dude. Like, we have enough problems trying to figure out what pass interference is and what roughing the passer is.
Right.
This whole hip drop thing is just going to open up another can of worms for everybody to complain about. Like, it's going to be great for us because now we get a chance to complain more and we have more content to talk about and probably real shitty calls or what we're deeming shitty calls. So I guess it'd be great for us from a content creator standpoint, but to me, it just feels like a problem.
It looks like it's going to be more offense. Like if a guy's beating the guy on the edge and he would have normally hip dropped.
Yeah, it's all geared towards the offense.
And that's
all geared towards the offense.
But again, if you have a players union,
does the
your own union is supposed to be looking out for your own benefit, and they're not. Who am I to get mad at the owners for constantly pushing that edge because they know they can get over on the union? Like that's the whole point of the union. Supposed to protect the employees from the employers. Clearly, that's not happening in the NFL's case. Like the NFL is the employer. They're running roughshod over the employees continuously. So, I mean, to me, it's like we know they want offense. We know. I mean, look at the whole Netflix thing. They went from quarterbacks on Netflix. They couldn't get enough quarterbacks to do a season 2. So now they got to go out here and do what? Receivers. They're never going to do safeties. They're never going to do linebackers. It's going to be next season be running backs or tight ends. They're even mixing in tight ends this year with Kittle. So it's like,
I would love to see long snappers.
I mean,
that would be funny shit. Like from everything that I've heard about, like from talking to former NFL players, like the long snappers are like the craziest dudes on the team. Like they're the most like random ass dudes on the team. I think that would be hilarious. If
we got to keep that one away from Netflix because Peyton in Omaha will jump all over that.
I'm definitely.
I'm even down for kickers. I'm down for kickers.
Yeah, kickers would be great.
Kickers would be interesting.
Special teamers.
Don't steal that, Peyton. I know you have people watching streams. Don't steal that one.
Pat.
So I think, how has the Shannon Sharp? How have y'all two taken in the Shannon Sharp thing? Like, I have my own opinion about it. I just see it as another former player. Obviously he was trying to be a analyst prior. It's not like he's jumping fresh in like the habitual nut-hitter Draymond Green, but he's been a veteran of this space in terms of trying to do it the traditional way, and then he made the ultimate pivot and taking his own control of his own content after breaking up with Skip. How have y'all two seen, and I'll go to Ike first, how have you seen the whole Shannon Sharp thing? How do you think seeing a former athlete being able to be a known entity, but then seemingly find a way to even go to another level with it? How have you seen that progression?
No, I respect it. He's taken the CBS desk to the Fox morning show to now doing it on his own. He's taken all the experience. He seems confident. Obviously, he's bringing the more profit to him. So I'm respecting it, man. And how many views did he get with that Cat Williams thing? So every
40-something million, man. It's just a monster. It's a monster.
He cracked through to new sponsors. So I'm happy for Shannon. He seems like he keeps it real. And I mean, it's like he played the game. Like there's no faking the the dude's biceps are still gigantic. Like Skip talks as if he's Brian Urlacher, but it's like Shannon Sharp, man. He won Super Bowls with John Elway, Terrell Davis, McCaffrey. Are you kidding me? It's like his word holds weight, and I'm very happy for it. It seems like he's a good guy.
G?
I'm going to be real with you guys. I really haven't kept up with Shannon Sharp all that much. I literally was just looking at First Take, and I saw him on there with Molly Querum, I don't even know how to say her last name. I really don't know what Shannon's – I don't know what Shannon's been up to, honestly. Like, I know he broke up with Skip. I know he's kind of been doing his own thing. I've seen some clips of his podcast or whatever it may be, but, like, I haven't kept up with him. I think Shannon's good at what he does. Like Ike said, he seems to keep it real a lot of the times, but I honestly haven't kept up with him that much. And he might be kind of falling into that, what we talked about earlier, of like the former athlete coming on here sometimes and saying some crazy shit just to get some likes and some clicks and things like that every once in a while. I mean, that's what we see nowadays. Like, that's what it's become.
But that's
like,
the game. I
know it's the game.
But I just wish we could just say that and just know that, because there's people that promote his stuff and treat it like it's gospel, and I'm like, y'all know he's just doing that because it's going to get clicked, right? Like and that's my biggest bugaboo with the whole new versus old, new media versus old media. They're doing the same thing like old media, like the Mad Dog take of Willie Pip, or the Mad Dog take of, Joe DiMaggio is better than King Griffey. Like, that's just saying a thing because I know it's going to get clicks. So when Shannon Sharp is doing the same thing of LeBron's the greatest, he's better than Jordan, he's better than this one, but he's just saying the thing that he knows is going to get clicks, is going to get retweeted, is going to get sent to group chats, and it's going to go crazy. Like, they're doing nothing that's different. And that's my biggest thing. Their biggest advantage is that they played, some of them at high levels, and that they have locker room stories. Once those are done and you're just talking, that's where the gap still resides. That's where I feel like a lot of these former athletes, they can't hack it because they're not entertainers. They're not.
JJ Redick,
Shannon has learned.
I respect the shit out of JJ Redick, but sometimes
he's hella smart. He knows the game. He knows basketball.
When he's in the same room with Stephen A, there's levels to performers and presenters.
Right. If we're not talking screens and ball hand or dribble handoffs and all that stuff, and then there's that lull. What does he have to fill in that gap? And G, we all been solo hosts on our own platforms. When you have that lull, when you get your take out and you're done, and then there's that lull of, oh shit, now what? That's where us, because we've been doing it as entertainers, we know, okay, I could pivot here, I can make a joke here, and that'll get me to the next thing. Or I'll have someone on the show that can help bridge that gap to the next thing. Yep. These guys are not doing that. They're just, I'm going to give you this locker room story. It's going to have a dismount. I'm going to hit that dismount. But then after that story, that's all I got, unless you want to hear another story, and then another story, and then another story. So to me, that's kind of my whole problem is like, I think Shannon has learned, as Ike mentioned, he was at CBS. He was at Fox. He's worked in that traditional studio format, so he knows how to give a take and how to fill time and stuff like that. These other guys, like Draymond Green, doesn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to be Barkley. He wants to be the next Barkley. So, and that's the lane. I'm going to be the loud, outrageous guy saying something, and Shaq is doing the same thing now. Shaq had a lane where he was trying to be the guy I'm going to say the thing, I'm going to go viral, I'm going to do a stunt, I'm going to do a prank to get clicks to go viral. Now he's learning.
Ernie, it's my ass, Ernie.
There it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, so he's learned he's got to do more. Shaq got left behind a little bit. And he had to fix it up and redo it and learn and evolve with the time. So, I think the former athlete thing is it sounded good on paper. Athletes giving their perspectives, giving us their insight. The problem is that the only model they have to go off of is the old traditional media format. So instead of a biased reporter giving his opinion back in the day on what they did or did not like about an athlete, all we have is an athlete giving their biased opinion on what they do or do not like about a particular entity, a reporter, or organization, or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see nowadays. By the way, just I know we're live here, but I got only 5 minutes left in this room. So if y'all want to continue the conversation, you can continue without me, unfortunately, but I might have to go in 5 minutes. But yeah, it is pretty wild. And I think the one name that sort of comes to my mind as we're talking about this in terms of former athletes is Chris Sims on NBC Sports or NBC. Like, I remember him saying like the craziest shit or putting out like the craziest lists about like top quarterbacks in the league or whatever it may be, or, power rankings. Like, that to me was like one of the first times I can remember like, wow, like I cannot believe this person who played at that high level believes this. And as we've talked about, it might not be exactly what they believe, but they know, hey, this is going to get us some views. This is going to get us some clicks. This is going to get us some conversation. And that's where I think, like, Sam and I know we've had many conversations about it of, I guess our path and our lane is, hey, like, we're just trying to, go out here and one, give as real a takes as we could possibly give, and two, bring some entertainment. Like, after we get the take, where do we go from there? Like, we all have been there. We've all hosted shows. Like, we can all pivot and continue on the conversation instead of just like, here's my take. I got a funny locker room story. And then it's like you said, Sam, like, okay, cool. Do you want to hear another one? Like, I don't know. It's a weird place that we're in sports media. I hope it kind of gets cleared up a little bit, but with social media growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, I don't know if I see an end to the, a light at the end of that tunnel of people giving crazy takes, and they're still going to get likes and clicks and in group chats and all that stuff.
And there's so much money to be made. There's so many
Yeah.
companies that are jumping in and throwing bags at mostly former athletes because, again, like we talked about earlier, they already have that built-in following. That company doesn't have to do the legwork of marketing and promotion. It's, hey, former, LA Dodger, whatever, is now going to do a baseball podcast. Oh, well, he's got 100,000 followers already. So boom, just transfer that over here. Let's build a podcast out. Let's build a YouTube out. And we're already going to be monetized. Yeah, if Shohei were to do a pod, and boy, that pod would do numbers if he were right now. If
You gotta get Cat Williams on first.
Yeah. If Shohei were to have a pod right now, it would be number one. It would knock out Rogan and all of that because we would want to know what the hell he's going to say. And I think that's just where the game is. It's like, all right, an athlete does something wrong. People are immediately, well, does he have a podcast? Well, where is he going to speak? And today he did the traditional thing of a press conference, but imagine if Ohtani had a pod and he was going to release his thoughts on his own individual platform. It would be insane. Greg,
right.
and I know you have to go soon, but you're my baseball guy. I'll tee this up to you. The whole Ohtani thing real quick. How is this being covered by the media? Do you think it's being covered correctly by the media? And what thoughts do you have on it?
Well, it's interesting. I think it's being covered as well as it possibly can be, I guess, because it seems like the story's ever changing. Like, did he know about it? Is he just trying to help a buddy? Did he actually gamble or bet? And, it's such a weird, ever changing sort of story. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to get the true answer. And like I said, like I've just sort of like heard stuff on Instagram and read stuff online a little bit about it. And, it's hard to cover because it's really hard to know, okay, what exactly is the truth? Like baseball wasn't going to do an investigation. Now we're doing an investigation. And I don't think there's any way Ohtani will go down for this, even if he did, bet on sports or bet on baseball or whatever it may be. But can you imagine if he actually did and gets like the blackball Pete Rose, like, treatment? It would be absolutely insane. Like there's no way Ippei is going down for this. And there's no way he's going to be the fall guy, as Chris Carter once said. Like, you always got to make sure you got a fall guy. And that guy who lied about where he went to school, lied about where he was employed, is going to be the fall guy in this situation. But, yeah, I got to boogie up out of here, fellas. People are beating down my door here. But it's been great being on with y'all. I appreciate you guys having me. This has been an amazing conversation. Like you guys said, like I feel like we could do this for 3 hours if we really wanted to or more. But
and hopefully
I really appreciate
in the near future we'll have the time and the space to do that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's great seeing you guys. I miss you guys like crazy. Keep doing y'all's thing. You guys are balling out there back in the Northeast. I miss you guys. Keep doing your thing, and always good to see you guys win because I'm your biggest fan for sure. You know that.
Appreciate you, G.
Likewise, you're going to be killing it with the local, the state championship team. Can't wait to see the content that you guys make over there, and keep chatting it up.
I see what you did there.
All
right, boys. We'll catch y'all later.
All right, peace. So I think
that we got that fuckface out of here.
Shout out to G for pulling up. I had some tech difficulties, so we couldn't start on time. So that's partially a me thing. I'll take the hit on that. But I think one of the main things I wanted to have you on to talk about is where this space is going. Like, I love what you have done in terms of ingratiating yourself into your local scene and building that way, and still having the cachet to talk about the bigger topics in your sport. And I think that's the secret sauce. Like, and I think G and his guys are going to get to that point as well, where they're definitely going to be locked in on everything Chattanooga and have that base. But when something gets bigger and it's outside the scope of Chattanooga, Tennessee, they'll all be locked in and be ready to attack that as well. And I think that's the secret sauce, where you can talk about local fighters that that probably even the most hardcore MMA guys don't know, MMA fans don't know about. Because you're catching them on the way up, you're catching them in their early stages, but then when there's a huge story, that's UFC, that's something that Ariel Helwani will cover as well. You're right there, and you have similar expertise, similar context on that. So walk me through how you try to walk that tightrope of when do you lock in on the local side of it, and when do you know it's time to pivot and try to broaden and go to speak to a larger thing that's going on in your sport?
Just try to keep filling each cup, little the local, and then obviously what pays the bills, got to fill that cup a lot. But like trying to consistently focus on the local stuff. That's why I have no doubt that Greg is gonna have like 10,000 followers, and you've probably seen it, right? The guy from Cincinnati, the guy from Cleveland, Atlanta. It's like they become like John Kincaid. I didn't know about John Kincaid before he was on CBS Sports Radio. Dude,
Right.
I think he had like 35,000 followers when he was on joining the CBS Sports Radio team. It's like the
Right.
local, there's such a market for that. That's why I could see Greg killing it, being like on the Tennessee broadcast. You never know. Game day comes down. All of a sudden, Greg's like
He's right
launching like
there. He's in the
pumpkins into
mix.
the stands. Like that's a real thing. And the New York just got legalized in 2016 with McGregor coming to town. And yeah, man, there's a freaking hotbed. We had two champions, Matt Serra and Chris Weidman, before the sport was even legalized
Chris
in New
Weidman,
York.
yeah.
There's the market for it, and now it's so cool. I just interviewed a fighter, this kid Anthony Spataro. I think he's like 21, 22. Like his father, who's in his 40s, was a pro fighter who fought in Atlantic City, and now his son's like kind of like a prodigy. And it's like,
That's
dude,
awesome.
the whole cycle's happening. Like
Yeah.
Aljamain Sterling, Long Island is a freaking hotbed for mixed martial arts. So I'm just trying to like put a spotlight on the guys. And I've learned to, dude, I've spoken before. I've gotten in a lot of trouble just speaking to a fighter for 15 minutes that I'm not going to see again. He got suspended for marijuana. I show up a little lit of my own, and I'm like, so let's talk about your suspension. And it's like, now I have to be more sensitive because it
Yeah.
is as local fight news gets. Like, I have
Right.
to be more aware that it's like, dude, if I piss off one of these amateurs, like they could still like it could get back to me. It could get back to me.
Yeah.
And it's a small circle. The reputation, like if I'm hounding somebody for an interview, if I'm like a nuisance, if I ask the wrong thing, so it's really towing the line. Like Greg can't go in there to his the state championship basketball and be like, so you lead the team in turnovers. Like he can't
Yeah.
ask.
That's not a good
It's like,
opener. Yeah.
no, you want to ingratiate yourself. So it's cool, man. It's cool. Would you ever see yourself? Is basketball your number one sport? Football? Like, would you ever
I've
see yourself like a high school, like a county championship football game, like not the Peter Schwartz style?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because that's kind of where I started. Like I used to cover games. Like I worked on my college newspaper. So I covered like a couple of college, I went to Kingsborough and I covered the baseball team there. They won the CUNY championship when I was there. So I got to be able to, be
Oh
able to
wow!
talk to, the coaches and stuff like that, and be able. I think a couple of those players actually did get drafted later into
Wow!
MLB. So it's like I've been at that level. I had fun at that level. I think it's interesting if you're into storytelling at that level. I think for me, if we're being real, I've always been larger scope. Like even when I was like in junior high school or high school, and my mom used to take me to Andrew Jackson High School football games on Saturdays. I would always be like, but this ain't the NFL. And she was like, well, this is high school. So this is high school football. And I'm like, but I don't care about that. There's a
Right.
better
You're
league
12
than
years
this.
old.
Like, Yeah, take me to the better league. Don't take me to this type of football. I don't want to see this. So it's like I was always more, I want to see the best at who's doing this.
Mm.
So I think, and I got to cover St. John's for a whole year. When Mike Jarvis was there, I got to cover the basketball team for a community paper over there in Astoria.
Did it get
So
the juices flowing a little with the Johnnies?
I mean, it's
Cool.
I've always been fuck St. John's. I ain't gonna hold you. I was never on St. John's. But like it was cool to have that access, right? Like it was cool to be able to go to Carnesecca Hall and then be able to go to the Garden and cover games there and stuff like that. So I always like access to stuff. Like if I'm gonna go to one of those types of events, I want to be on the floor or I want to be like in the press box. Like give me that access. But if you're asking me, Sam, what is your dream job? My dream job would be something similar to what I'm doing right now. And it would
Dude,
be
I
able
just
to,
I don't know if you've seen the MSG networks. They're doing a lot more casual, laid back, like podcasty settings, casual wear. Like imagine you on MSG networks, you and freaking
it'd be full
Mellow or
circle.
freaking
Well,
like
that is the problem. Mello knows that, right? So Mello's gonna go do a pod with a dude that has a tremendous following.
yeah, but I also think there's something to somebody who knows how to steer the ship. I've seen
No,
that.
I agree. And I think just like we were talking about with G, like after your story runs out, then what, right? So with Mello and the kid Mero, they have their podcast and it's
Oh
doing
wow.
numbers, so it's working, right? But Mero is a funny guy. That's his whole shtick. Great, he's a hardcore Knicks fan. Great, you're doing a pop of one of the greatest Knicks of all time. That's perfect. When Melo's in his bag and he's getting off his narrative, who's gonna push back if Melo's just getting off some Melo shit? Like if Melo's kind of changing the story or twisting the truth a little bit, who's gonna be there to press him? Not necessarily call him out, but who's gonna be like, well, Melo, didn't it go like this though? Or the reporting was that it was this. That's I
Right.
think where the difference has to be where
I get that too, because if I did have the opportunity to do a podcast with Chris Wyman, he's a Nassau kid. Like,
mhm,
imagine all of a sudden just drive over to his house, we start doing a podcast, and he's be like, "Yeah, man, yeah, this fight and that happened," and I have to be like, "Well,
and you know that that's bullshit. Right. Right. And you know that he's full of shit, but he's just getting his shit off. Do you jump out there and correct your co-host who is the main draw of the show? Like
that was
that's
the
a whole
beauty of
thing
Boomer
with
and
this new
Carton.
media shit.
That was the beauty of Boomer and Carton. Craig didn't really call him out, but like Eddie Scazzeri, keeping him humble with the Boomer's out. I don't know
Right.
if he's gonna like
Again,
like
that ensemble cast, like you have to if your co-host isn't, I won't say scared, but if your co-host isn't comfortable calling
comfortable.
you out, somebody in that control room has to be able to hold someone accountable. You can't just
It
tell
just takes it
stories.
to another level too. Like
Yeah.
you can just like
And it's
you're not
entertaining. It
afraid,
adds entertainment value.
not treating your co-host like Putin. It makes everybody
Right.
comfortable.
That's what I'm saying. And that to me was the problem with Francesa at the end. He would just be saying shit. And there's nobody who could say anything except the callers. The callers would come in and break his balls, but then he would hang up on them.
Right. Maybe the producer was designing that, like that was his way, like to like get the opinions.
Maybe, but it's like I would think the show would have been better if his producer could like, dog, your host is falling asleep. Why are we just gonna let mans just fall asleep on there multiple times? Like no
The
one wants to
producer
get
would
in
be
his
like,
ear.
"Well, he's tired. You know how long he's working. You know the kids are up all night for Mike." Like,
Trust me, as someone that had to deal with a host being stuck in an elevator on an overnight, I know that feeling of how you could feel like powerless. So like I can't stop mans from running downstairs for a smoke break every 10
that's
minutes. I
why
can't.
I had to leave the full-time job on the national side because I was like, I don't want to burst out. Like I was burning the candles on both ends, doing the MMA stuff, trying to do the
Right.
national full-time, and it's like I could feel it. I could feel it like start to
You,
like
you turn into
just
a babysitter.
put them in their place. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
this is human to human. This isn't like I'm not nobody's dog over here. Like, and it's like I just I probably could have handled it better, but it's like I
Think so?
remember that when I left the job, the host was like, "Why did you text me you're leaving? You didn't even call me." I said, "I don't know."
Mm.
And I know
Mm.
why I did it. It's so you could see it. I don't need you to try to pull some power move on the
Right.
phone. Like, no, no, no. I'm
Right.
uh, free like a bird, man.
Yeah. And look, I think ultimately you knew what you wanted to be. And
Right.
someone told me a long time ago, if you want to be talent, you have to go out and, like do talent things. Like saying you want to be talent, but you're forever a producer or forever behind the scenes. Like you're not really attacking what you want. Like you're waiting for an opportunity to be handed to you, but what are you actually doing proactively to get to where you keep saying you want to be? Like all three of us, me, you, and G, all three of us decided we want to be more than what we were working at that present time. And we all individually have found our way to get to where we're significantly closer doing what we wanted to do than what others that are still there are trying to navigate and figure out.
And look at the alumni, man. I didn't know that Kevin Burkhardt came through
Yeah.
WFAN.
Yeah.
It's like so that gives me confidence that like he's not running the board when we got there. Like we didn't
No.
say hi, Kevin.
No.
Like
People come
he took
in,
it serious.
you get the experience and then you leave.
Right, right. Nick
You you, you,
Costas, like
you stay there forever because you want to be there forever.
I think that only leads to program directing. Like that's the
For
pinnacle.
sure.
Like
I agree.
you see the system, you see how it works, and it's just eventually you're just
You want to be an executive.
yes.
Yeah.
And because it's safer that way. You know, it's scary.
Sure. Hell
Old
yeah.
school days doing what Greg did, Louisiana. And
Right.
it's cool. Greg's probably the last of that bunch to like go out of state and do that type.
Nobody else left. He
No.
is the last one. I'm confirming it. He is the last one.
And it's like that he's
And
gonna
that's
have
a
I'm sure
risk.
he has great stories, like because he is gonna come back, and it's like it's just a
Right.
matter of time. It's
And he
I heard from
brought in his audience. And that's what I think the people that stay don't realize is that, yeah, you can become the man behind the scenes for a show and get known for that show. And you might be able to even build a following off of that. But the minute the scope becomes outside of the tri-state area, you're lost. You don't have
right,
any mindset. You don't know how to talk about other things that aren't Jets, Giants, Mets, Nick. Like that's your bubble. And if that's the only bubble you want, then cool. But if you're Greg, now I've been to the South. I've been the man in the South in a few markets. Now I can even become more of the man and really hyper focus in Tennessee and become the man in Tennessee. Now when I come back, when everyone here is just talking Mets and Knicks for the 100th show in a row, when a big story breaks about the SEC or when a big story breaks about
mm,
college football, I'm the guy because I live there. I work
right,
there. I got sources there. I'm not just
right.
waiting on John Heyman to tweet out some shit. I can go hit up a guy that covers the Braves. I got my own connect. And I think that's what they're missing because their bubble is hyper focused on a small piece. Like my guy Nick Costos, me and him worked at Sirius XM together, and now he's killing it with Odyssey and You Better You Bet, and he has a show on the Fan now. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, he's a guy that I saw his growth where he was
Big fan.
of the
Big
ilk of like hyper focused local, but because he worked at Sirius XM, he got exposed to national.
fan.
He learned that this market it's more than just what Mike and Chris are talking about. There's Mike and Chris's in every market. I want to know what
Right.
those guys are talking about. Those guys are getting their shit off about some other topics. Let me see what they're talking about and how can I bring that into my shit. And he found that betting lane and he's been killing, he's been crushing it. And I'm so proud of him because I remember sitting in control rooms with him and him being frustrated and him felt like he was put in a box. And the powers that be didn't see what he knew he was ultimately going to be. And he finally just had to say, fuck it, and do it his way. And he found people that believed in him, in his own vision, and they gave him opportunities, and he fucking crushed it. And now he's all over the place, and no one can stop him. I want to get him on here, but he's hyper busy. But he is crushing it to levels that I'm sure even in his mind, he never thought he would be able to do because he did it his way.
Those stories help us, man. And
for sure, inspiring. Yeah.
It's a credit too to Sean Marash, because it is very difficult to do what he did, to be like the comic relief of the show for a decade and then get the chance. So it's like I did say, if you just stay as a producer, the plateau is the program director. Sean, he squeezed through, and he doesn't squeeze through anything. So it was a great job by him to just keep his patient and not freak out on DA, because I heard that like it gets heated, man. You can only take so much to be character.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
It can wear on you, and
shtick has its limits.
To help DA, help him help the DA. Like it was like a beautiful coexistence, and that's a credit to DA for recognizing, not trying to keep Sean down, but like, dude, if you want this, you're gonna have to jump for it.
Yeah, and he had to kind of pivot away from that. Like I'm sure the opportunity to follow DA was there, or at least was floated out there, and he could have just stayed and just follow with him to Sirius and see what happens there. But ultimately, if you know where I want to be is I want to be a local New York guy, I want to be that guy, then yeah, you can't follow him to a national platform. You can't, because that would just be following him just to follow him, and the comfort of just staying on that show and keeping that shtick going and now broadening it national. But if you know,
I don't think anybody will do what Sean has done. I don't think that will ever happen again. I don't think it has happened in the past. 10-year producer turned into
Malusis? Wasn't he Mike's producer for a long time before he pivoted? I don't know for sure, but I know he was there for a minute.
Licata, he disappeared for a minute before he came back to the Fan. Before he did the
for a lot of reasons we can't get into. Yeah.
Got you.
A lot of guys have gone from producing the big show or one of the bigger shows and have gotten on air opportunities. I think the key is, if you're not on a big show.
Perloff was on a huge show with Dan Patrick.
And he left. And he was able to get his own thing. And it's been, varying degrees of successful, but it's his own thing. And it's something that he felt he wanted to do. And that's the thing. All it takes is one person that's important to believe in you. He's had a couple, because he had Dan Patrick believe in him to make him one of the Danettes. Then he uses that, and then he's able to pivot and branch off into his own thing. So he had another person believe in him and believe in what he could be as something he had never shown that he could do. Like no one knew he could be a host, like a legitimate co-host of a 2-3 hour show. We know you as a guy that just is in the background part of the ensemble. Now you're a co-host. You're a B mic. That's a huge jump. And the show has been on the air for a minute now. So clearly it's been solid to the people that matter.
It's true. Do you play host chemistry? Do you like try to tune in here, tune in there, like see, oh man, if they had this character, or maybe if somebody pushed a little more with this? I'm obsessed with chemistry. Like a blatant example of poor chemistry is Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. Dude, Max refused to play the game. He kept trying to prove how smart he is. And it's like, instead of just, I think Stephen A. just wanted somebody to like push him back. Like, I'm going to push you, you're going to push me. And Max is like, don't push me. Like,
but see, I blame Stephen A. on that, because if you knew of Max's content, Max was never going to be that guy. He has never shown that he was going to be that combative, I'm going to attack you on your take type guy.
Did you see the zaniness of Chris Russo this much? I didn't see this coming.
I
The
mean,
Zany?
I worked with him at Sirius for a little bit. Like I interned on his show at
Isn't it
Sirius.
hardcore radio, just like the Fan? Mad Dog
Yeah,
Sports?
yeah.
But the Stephen A thing, they turned it into
But
like
then he would do the
shtick.
zany stuff too. Like, see, that was the thing.
Oh,
He
he
would
did?
find
Okay.
his pockets to go viral. Like before viral was a
Uh,
common word. He would find his way to have that outrageous take. Like that's why even though I know what he's doing is shtick, I can genuinely say I would say 75% of the time he means that shit. Because I've heard him off air like stand on that hill and die on those takes. So it's
Gotcha.
like I know he's being brought in as like this guy to come in and be zany. He's the old guy. He's a white guy on a now show that is damn near all black. So he's like the zany old white guy from like, the black and white era that gets to come in and talk about
The
how,
Walt.
Bob Cousy was amazing. Some shit like that, or Roger Staubach is the GOAT type shit over Patrick Mahomes. Like that's his role to be the old white guy that's from a long gone era,
It works.
as
It
opposed to
works.
Stephen A, who's, Jordan's a great, LeBron is great, hell with anyone who played in black and white footage. So it's like that old white guy, young black guy, even though Stephen A's not really that young, but he's young compared to Mad Dog. So you have that like generational thing going on. So to me, that's on the ball. That's either on the bosses or for Stephen A. If he really, really runs that show like he says he does. If he picked Max, because I'm like, Max was never going to be that guy.
Max is probably so gullible, and it's not a fault of his own. He's probably like so into what he's into that he can't
a
see if
nerd.
somebody's like, yeah,
He's a
exactly.
boxing nerd. Like, and again, that's something
In the
we
boxing
didn't have a
show,
chance to
have you
chop it
heard
up
it
with
at all?
G.
Have you
What's
tuned
that?
into the boxing show, dude? I think they did a Friday night boxing
Encyclopedia,
show.
bro. Yeah.
It was he was so relaxed. The guest he was joking with, he could pull back fights from the
That's
80s,
him.
and I was like, and he was relaxed.
That
There's
is
no
the real
like,
him.
no LeBron, this, no
Yeah.
Pat
I'm not
Mahomes.
forced to talk about shit I don't care about. I could talk about what I like. He came up as like a boxing savant. Like he was like a child prodigy in terms of boxing history. So
Him
that
and
was
Rogan,
always
like,
his lane.
Rogan with the UFC, Max with the
Exactly.
box.
Great point.
Like,
Great
when
point.
they're in it, it's like, whoa, just let them work.
So
cook.
and so that's why it's always strange to me when you have athletes that are not, or even commentators, but we'll stick with athletes. Like it bothers me when I hear football players critiquing basketball. Not to say that a football player,
Kendrick Perkins, you don't want to hear his take on.
I don't want to hear Kendrick Perkins talking about slant routes. Don't want to hear it. I don't want him critiquing like Shannon Sharp. Like Shannon Sharp thinks he could critique basketball. And I'm like, I don't care what you did in high school. I don't care that you played ball in high school or whatever. Like that's cool.
He dropped that.
Yeah. Like he talks about how he used to
man,
get
don't do
buckets
that.
in high school so he can no. That doesn't mean you get to critique
And LeBron talk about football because he was a tight end.
Yeah, it's like LeBron, like he can, I mean, look, LeBron's a known liar in more ways than one. But like even LeBron, at least if LeBron talked about it, I'm like, all right, but I have the knowledge of, but that's just a basketball player talk about football. But like there are legitimate shows that are on the air where we have football players talking about basketball and vice versa. And I'm like, why can't you just hire people who know that particular sport and just have them talk about that sport? Why do I need the cross-pollinization of football players talk about basketball players talk about football? Like, I don't want that. Like me and you are able to understand multiple sports because we have the bandwidth to do it because we're not playing it professionally. That's why we have the bandwidth to be able to, I know what happened in baseball. I know what happened in football because I'm not stuck training every goddamn day. I'm not stuck being a professional athlete. It's amazing to me that we've just, and not we, but the proverbial we have just allowed athletes to be able to just come in. Richard Sherman is talking about a Luka Doncic. Why?
No.
Why? I don't want to hear that. Why would I ever want to hear that? What purpose is that doing for me as a listener or a watcher? It does nothing.
Does Does McAfee? I know football plays. Football is king. Does he? Does he diversify his coverage? He's got AJ
Well,
Hawk.
he
Like,
does.
does he
He
even?
definitely does not diversify his ensemble. But he will dabble into basketball. But the one thing I'll say, which is good, he'll lean on a guest. So if he's talking
Okay.
NBA, he'll bring on Woj.
He's a
He'll
very good
bring
interviewer.
on, yeah. And again, it took him a minute to get that right. Like that's the thing. Like you
Did you
need
know he was on
time.
CBS Sports Radio for a minute?
Was he?
He was doing 10 to 12 for like a year.
That's
He was throwing the
hilarious. That's
I
hilarious. Was he doing sports minutes and shit?
I don't know. I just remember
That's amazing. That's
seeing that he
amazing.
was going to be on the schedule.
That's like the
Yeah,
thing though, right? It's like you need reps no matter where you're coming from. Like if
right.
you're a former athlete and you're
How
starting a
many times did he
podcast,
throw it to Ack choppy? Or how many
yeah.
times did he like
Right. Yes.
before?
But that's real though, because even though now, like let's say that, right? He's throwing it to Act for an update that might be choppy, but by now he's throwing it to Sports Center and the shit is flawless.
Right.
You
Good
need
point.
those reps. Because
Shannon
if you
Sharp.
can't throw it to Ack 5 years ago, 7 years ago, you're not gonna be able to throw it to L. Duncan on Sports Center. So it's like you need those reps. But with these athletes being able to just pop up, buy microphones, get a couple of cameras, and then jump on the Wi-Fi and say, we're now a show. It's like, all right, bro, but you don't have the slightest idea how to get into a topic, how to pivot in a topic, how to incorporate your guest into a topic. You just say, yeah, so what is your craziest Kobe story? And then the person gives the Kobe story at the end of the story. Wow, that was wild. All right, who else did you play with? What's your craziest LeBron story? And then it's
And
like
of course, there's
rinse
going to be
and
the
repeat.
hardcore fans who own the jersey of that player who will tune into everything they're going to say. Like
Right.
if Joe Flacco does a podcast, Peter Schwartz is listening to every single episode. Daryl Remus, same thing. It's like
Yeah.
there's that merch. The people who buy the merch are the people who are listening to the podcast.
Super fans.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, do you remember the what was the Dark Fantasy album by Kanye West?
Oh yeah. My
You
beautiful
remember
twisted dark
the
fantasy. Yep.
the Chris Rock song where he's like, "Man, where'd you learn that move?"
Oh yeah. Yeezy taught me. Yeah.
Easy taught me. Like
Yeah.
that's what we can be for these athletes. Like, oh man, where'd you learn to take? It's like, oh, Sam and Ike and Greg taught us. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude,
I think that really needs to be a thing, because if you take like the whole Knicks thing, like the Knicks have their players have a podcast. All the Villanova dudes have a podcast now. And I'm like, okay, cool. But if I'm not a Knicks fan,
that's
why
cool.
would I ever consume that content? Like, why would I ever have an interest in listening to three Knicks who just all happen to play at Villanova? Why would I care? If I'm in Kansas, if I'm in Louisiana, if I'm in Seattle, why would I give a damn that three Knicks players are talking in the microphones and they're talking about their
You need the
Villanova
super fan
days?
you need the super fan who knows how to coordinate, like a Jake Brown. Like credit to Jake. It's unfortunate what happened with the Figueroa podcast. New York Post has dropped it stupidly. I think they were going to grow. You just need to like give it time. But Jake Brown was the super Met fan who was guiding
Yeah.
Figueroa.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jalen Brunson, no offense. I'm sure you guys are shooting the shit. Maybe you guys smoked a vape pen before to
Right.
get loose.
Right.
I'm sure MMA guys, you could put Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture. It's cool. It's like a round table. You see the round table things
Right.
are getting hot, like with
Yeah.
movies, directors,
Yeah.
like.
Right.
But it's like, if they just told them go and there's no like cuts, if it's a live stream,
Exactly.
it's gonna be bad.
Brutal.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be bad.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And they ask the questions. Have you heard like Martin Scorsese asking like
No.
Quentin Tarantino? It's awkward. So, yeah, I like what you did with that. What were you thinking with that? Like,
And so again, and you know a producer had to feed that to him. You know he's got a fucking in-ear joint like,
exactly.
ask him about you know what I'm saying? Like, all right, pivot to this question, pivot to that. And I think that's something where if the whole thing with content is everyone wants to get away from the traditional look. Everyone wants to get away from the traditional setup of you have a former athlete and then you kind of have a fan type guy and you have them go back and forth, kind of like a Jalen and Jacoby type deal, right? Like the Jalen and Jacoby thing has kind
Great
of
example.
been like a copy and paste for the whole industry.
Yeah.
Like you had Tiki and Tierney and Tiki and who are you with now? Evan or whatever. Like that's kind of the mold that's the model of what you want in content. And people are tired of that shit. People are bored just hearing a former athlete answer questions or just keep referencing stuff to, well, back when I played, we did it like this. Well, that was 15 years ago. Like, I don't
Then
care
credit to
about,
Barstool, because Barstool is a platform, and it's a bunch of there's like Little Mouse
I
and
don't
Big
credit
Cat.
Barstool,
I don't know shit about the
but you could go
characters,
ahead.
but I'm like when I look at their MMA space, it's 3 guys. Literally, I've never heard of them. They're interviewing McGregor when he's in town because of the platform.
Right.
And
I mean, yeah.
yeah,
They built a platform. They knew their audience and they stuck to it. And they doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on who their core is. Their core audience does not look like me. But they went and they stood and they built a following, a humongous following. I was watching the Patriots documentary on Apple, and they made an appearance in that. I didn't even know that they were out here during Deflategate. They were out here protesting Roger Goodell in front of his office. Like they were doing some prank sit-in type shit like during the whole Deflategate thing. And I'm like, that's how they got their niche. That's how they got their base. Because, Belichick wrote letters for Trump. Brady had a MAGA hat in his locker. And all right, I'll move on. But I mean, like they play to their base, right? So it doesn't surprise me that they were lockstep with what the Patriots were doing, and they just popped up in a doc. And that's the following that they had. They ran the numbers up. They showed some of the numbers, and they went crazy viral off of doing it. They made they became infamous. Instead of just like this ragtag bunch of dudes on the internet, they became like legitimate, infamous people, and that helped blow them up.
it was probably the same guy. He had a megaphone outside of McGregor after he threw the dolly. Like he was waiting outside of the Brooklyn courthouse or jailhouse with the megaphone saying "Free Connor, free Connor," and it blew up.
Same deal. Yeah, it works. It works. Like people want access. People want sensationalized topics. People want to see stuff that is different than what was on Channel 7 growing up. Like the traditional format. We keep doing this old versus new media thing. Like the traditional format of what we grew up accustomed to, it's completely different now. We want better. We want more. We want more access. We want more folks tapped in. Like that's the stuff we want now. Like the whole thing, I don't know if you know what happened to Diddy earlier today. They raided all of his cribs. And within minutes, it was everywhere. Back in the day, we would have had to wait till the 6 o'clock news. And then they would have given us a whole debrief. Now it's instantaneous. The group chats are being lit up. The links are being sent all over the place. The timeline's going crazy. And within minutes, I now know Diddy's crib, all of his cribs have been raided by the feds.
Interesting. It's so they can't do the Friday afternoon news dumps anymore.
They still try. Like some.
I know. When I catch
but it doesn't hit the same. It doesn't hit the same. Yeah. Nothing is truly hidden. Nothing is truly invisible because of the internet. You can sneak a press release out because you get to fax those or email those. But once it hits that timeline, if the right person retweets it, it's out of here. It's gone. It's all over the place.
I know. I was like, FBI put out a tweet, and I was like, "Did I see that? Did I really see that?" And it's like,
yeah.
No, yeah. And I because I keep bringing it up to people, and they're like, "Dude, are you being pranked?" And I was like, "Am I being pranked? Like, I didn't really." And then I like confirmed yesterday, and I was like, "No, that's a tweet from a 4 million person account." Like,
dude, I almost got because someone on my timeline got by the fake Woj. There was a fake Woj tweet that came down today.
That was so cheap. That's such a cheap move.
I hate that. But it works because my man's got caught. He was retweeting this shit. And I'm like, wait, Drake, because it was a tweet basically saying Draymond Green had been suspended indefinitely because him and Steve Kerr had an altercation and Draymond Green had choked out Steve
Believable.
Kerr. And I was like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He's a fucking habitual nut hitter. Like, okay, yeah, he be wilding. Then I was like, wait, before I retweet this and go crazy, let me double check that at. And it was Woj D ESPN. And I was like, that's the fake Woj. That's the fake Woj. But
there's a fake Hawani that breaks news.
Really? A fake Ariel Hawani. It's amazing. It's amazing. And people probably fall for it all the time, right? You see that shit blasting, you're like, wait, they got to double check. You got to do that pause of like, and like that's breaking, us with our radio background of check the source. Because if Steve goes on the air with this and it's wrong, you're going to get destroyed. So you got to verify this information before you write it down or type it on the screen for them. This has to be the real account. So that's our journalism, radio journalism background kicking in because we got to double check, triple check. Is this the right person? Yay or nay?
It's true, man. And it just makes me think that we are at the right place at the right time. We have all the tools of the historic terrestrial radio and terrestrial media, old school media. Yeah. And there was an NBC executive who told me, he's like, you are at the right place, man. These companies are going to be looking for people like, dude, when Greg's telling me he's doing the one-man band, you're doing the one-man band editing. Like, you've never put so much into a project, a media project. Like, we're at the right place at the right time. Things are going to turn over, man. With Jake Paul, Tyson, a freaking live event, not free. It's a subscription, but dude, 280 homes that could get into. Amazing. It's like the UFC, their contract is coming up with ESPN. And now it's one company, TKO, with WWE and UFC. Dude, what if they want to go to...
They bundle that somewhere.
What if they want to go to Prime? What if all of a sudden Zuckerberg was showing up at events? No coincidence there. Like, what if all of a sudden it's Meta UFC? Like, they just open... I love the ESPN thing because it's like, you get to hear the guys. Like, I wanted to take a picture of it. I was like, I hope this era doesn't end because the fight was ending. Like, we're going to throw to Sports Center after this. Like, what are they going to say? We're going to throw it to... what's a Netflix
Facebook Live? Yeah, it was like, we're going to throw it to Chris Rock's latest comedy special right after this.
Bro,
it's like, wait, what? Exactly. Yeah.
Credit to Chris Rock for doing that live. Mad respect. Yeah. It was crazy. But, yeah, it's a crazy time, man. My brother tells me, I don't know what shit he knows, but he's like, yo, Disney's losing money. I'm like, how? He goes, dude, they over-budgeted the Avengers, and they had to cut She-Hulk, and he named a whole bunch of shows that I haven't seen. He was like, dude, they're losing money. And I'm like, and I'm also hearing that Netflix isn't doing so. It's like, if these companies aren't doing well, who is doing well?
Well, that's...
You believe that? I don't.
I won't speak on the Disney one for obvious reasons, but I'll say this, though. I think because businesses
Disney's doing great. My personal opinion.
Look, I got family that just got back from Disney. They said it was packed. So money's being made somewhere within the company. Those parks are still open, and those parks are expensive.
He's getting clickbaited. Oh, my God. If you want to get on some real stuff, I just went on a hell trip to Disneyland.
Really? Or how bad was it out there?
Orlando? Your family went to Orlando?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really bad. Like, I'm not there's some of my friends I may never talk to again.
Really?
Really. There was a theft among the
from
friends. Someone
in the crew?
Yeah, dude, at the house, the Airbnb. Dude, it was crazy. I have no problem talking about this. It was a hell trip. Like, one of my friends, quote unquote, was losing his mind, cursing out because there was 3 plans, Italian, China, dude, like a bunch of babies. Like, my wife's like, why the hell are you going to Orlando? I go, I don't know. I was originally supposed to be in Miami to see Sugar O'Malley. I've never been to a Mets spring training game. Mike McCann. Like, I thought that was the trip. Mets spring training, UFC. But then I'm like, you know what? I haven't seen these people in like a decade. Sure. They want to do the whole, like, they wear the ears as adults with no kids and run on the park. And I have kids. I'm like the only one with kids.
Still ain't wearing the ears.
And I'm like, all right, this will be good times, dude. Like I said, it
Wow.
felt like a reality show. Somebody had a group meeting, and one of the friends sounds like this. He goes, "You listen to me, guys. This isn't cool. Something happened. We all confide in each other. There's supposed to be trust. We're supposed to be with each other, and there's a theft. When I wake up, I want to see the money back on the counter." I was like, dude, are
Oof.
we in a fucking reality
Yeah,
TV
yeah,
show?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, like people cursing out friends,
Right,
cursing out other friends
right.
at Disney World, and a mom having to cover the daughter's ears.
Earmuffs.
Bro, what is this like, is this a Vince
This
Vaughn
can't be
movie?
life. Like this can't be life right now. That
I'm
is
like, "What?
hilarious.
I'm not responding to the tweet." And they like I silenced the group chat, and I
Mhm.
think I'm like, "I'm done. I'm done." To get on some spiritual shit, I saw the
Right.
clip. They said God will push people out of your life that are
Yo,
not meant
facts.
to be in your life.
Facts.
And I'm like, "These people, I'm here. I'm just standing
Yeah.
still." They're
Yeah.
literally just gravitating away.
Drifting away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Not,
Unbelievable.
hey, not everyone can come along for the ride. Not everyone. We all grow at a certain pace, but at
Have
some
you felt that?
point we start to outpace others while they grow a little slower. Like
Have you
that's
felt
real.
that? From your side, have you felt that?
Oh, for sure. Like there's definitely friends that I used to be really close with that I'm just not anymore. And it's not even they did anything fucked up to me or anything. It's just we're on different shit. Like I got a lot of friends that went off and got married or had kids or doing their career thing, and I don't have any of those. I'm just kind of I'm out here and I'm working towards a more individual goal as opposed to a family goal right now. But that's probably going to change soon. But like my mindset was always different than the people around me. So they were doing the life landmarks while I was more lockstep on the career landmarks because I got started in this media shit late. Like I worked a regular ass job for damn near a
Mm,
decade. I worked in a hospital doing bullshit work for almost a decade before I got to the fan. So like
wow.
my whole mindset had to switch up once I made the pivot of fuck this. I want to get into media. I have to do this because this is what I was supposed to be doing.
You
So
put the
I had
chips
to
in the
do
middle.
it. Exactly. So I had to sacrifice a lot of stuff. I sacrificed friendships, I sacrificed relationships. To be quite honest, when I first got to the fan, I sacrificed money. I was making more money at my hospital job than I was at the fan. And that
Of
was
course.
without overtime. Like I had to take a hit all the way around just to be able to get into this thing called media, sports media. So my friends were off doing all the fly shit, getting married,
What do you
having
mean you
kids,
don't want
buying
bottle service,
houses.
Sam? What do you mean you don't want bottle service?
So like I can't afford that shit. Like I would take this one Heineken and sip it all night. I'ma nurse this Heineken all fucking night because ain't no bread coming in, and the man up top doesn't want to give me a raise, even though it's like below minimum wage. But that's just what the game was. So if I'm like, how bad do you want it? My dad used to tell me that. He was like, if you want it bad enough, like you're gonna have to like change things and adjust. Like if this is what you want, if this is the path you really want to take, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices. And that's exactly what I had to do. And I had to leave people behind. I had to sacrifice, women that I was in love with or, had relationships with. I had to sacrifice friends that I was really cool with and hung out with all the time. All that shit had to go because that's what I wanted. I wanted something different.
Wow. I think it's no coincidence that you, me, and Greg, I think we all have very strong self belief. And it's like not everybody could take the hits that we have taken and like to keep coming back. And Greg is
Bruh.
very strong because he's gonna find out like who's ready to ride or die in that group from the radio station. Was it a fun ride at the radio station? Are they really? Because I truly believe if you do something for a year straight, you can get somewhere. How many people are
Right.
gonna make it till July and they're like, "Yo, I'm out.
I'm
Like,
done. I'm tapped out. Yeah. Yeah,
like
it's too
I had
much.
fun at the station. You'll always be a friend. Like, hit me up when you're in town, type of deal. It's like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
it is a grind. This business is no fucking joke. Like my brother was
Mm-hmm.
just released by his company, and I think
Mm-hmm.
my mom was just thinking that just the same mindset because she's always hoped for the best for me. Like, like
Right.
hopefully something lands, and it just landed at the most opportune time. But I'm like, Mom, you gotta understand, there's very few people in my position to get paid full time. Like, dude, it sounds crazy, but just to have the full time job, like covering a sport, is like,
Yes.
holy
It's
shit.
amazing, especially
Yeah,
today with all the layoffs. Shit, I was a part of one last year. I was part of a layoff and it came out of nowhere and they gutted a whole department. And I had to
jeez.
sit there and navigate what the fuck am I going to do now? And that's kind of where, I started this YouTube channel during the pandemic and then I kind of had to put it on the back burner because of the jobs that I had. But when I got laid off, it was an instantaneous thing. Oh, well, now it's time to build up the YouTube again. Now it's time to get this type of look. Now it's time to invest in this equipment. Now it's time to learn how to really edit better and really get more into my shit. Like, I'm at the crib, they gave me severance. All right, so they paying me to stay at home for a little bit. Let me take advantage of that time to really teach myself and get better. And for that whole time that I was out before I started recently up here in Connecticut, that's what I was doing. I was live here in Connecticut. That's what I was doing. I was live streaming damn near 5 days a week for months straight. I was building up this channel, and the bulk of the people that I got fucking with me were from that time I was laid off. And it's just putting in that time, sacrificing again. I could have been hanging out with my mans because I had time now. Before it was, nah, man, I got to work. Nah, man, I'm traveling for work or whatever.
Mm.
Now I'm home. But now I got a different job. I'm giving myself this job of, I want to be a creator. I'm trying to build something independent. I'm trying to build something strong that meets the brand that I think I want to build. Now this is my job. And that I had to sacrifice some other friendships and stuff like that off of that too.
Sam, I have no doubt it's gonna work out. Seriously. Dude.
I appreciate that. And the same for you. That's why I've always, wanted to keep tabs on you and check in with you because I know you were doing it differently. And you knew early on what you wanted to do and where you wanted to do it at. And I think both of those answers are
You
important.
can't fake passion. You can't fake
You
passion.
can't. You can't. If you're just doing shit for clicks, if you're just doing it because, well, I don't want to work a real job, so I'll just get into podcasting, or like, you're going to get exposed right away. Like, because this shit is not easy. Like, for me to set up this look, to do all the triple shit, I know G's not here, but to do all this type of fly shit, to have stuff flying in, flying out, all this type of shit, like, I had to build all of this. Like, I had to do all of this stuff. That was my day today. I spent the bulk of my afternoon building up each individual look for this stream tonight. Putting shit in the background, doing all that type of stuff. And that was what was the main thing for me. It's like, this is not easy. This is not just go buy a mic, go get a nice little camera and away you go. Like, you're going to be streaming to know people. You're going to be podcasting to know people. 6 months from now, it may be streaming to 4 people. It may be podcasting to 10 people. Are you still going to have that same energy then when you first started? When you first bought that mic, are you going to keep that same energy when you're a year in and you only have 100 followers or 100 subscribers? Are you going to keep that same energy? Are you going to keep showing up? And I think that's what weeds people out. Because you could have quit. I could have quit. Greg could have quit. But we knew if we keep doing it, it's going to grow, and all of us have been growing.
And I think the faster people figure out what they want to do, it's like just do it. Start doing it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
I
it,
had
man.
I had no hesitation when I made the pivot from like all NBA to just all sports. I was like, nope, I'm tired of Like I was doing guest hits on like Sirius XM, but it was only for NBA. And I'm like, well, come football season, y'all ain't gonna hit me
Oh,
up.
that's pretty sick.
Yeah, it was cool. Like initially it was cool, right? Because I was like, oh wow, that's dope. I had a couple of hits on Mad Dog Sports
Dude,
Radio.
can we get you and Shep? Like, oh my God! Like,
I
I
mean
love.
that I'll tell you something I haven't said. When
You
you had me
respect
on
him?
your platform, it was me, you, and Shep.
Yep. Last Dance. Talking Last
Yeah,
Dance.
Last Dance recap and all that type of shit. I went into it wanting to destroy Shep. And it had nothing to do with him personally, right? But to me,
Just like,
it was like, I have
like,
to,
you got to dominate.
yeah, I was like, I want to prove that I know what I'm talking about. I want to prove that I could do this. Not that he never thought I could do it or couldn't do it or whatever, or I know you always had my back, but it was like, I know some of them are going to watch this. And I want them to see that I know what the fuck I'm talking about, that I can get on this fucking mic and I could go in. And so it was like, you could have put whoever there. Shep just happened to be the guy that was there. Whoever you would have put on that stream that day, my intention was to bury them. And because, like, to me, I felt like you were giving me opportunity, and I know a lot of people from the fan, and you just have your own audience. So I'm like, I want them to know that Ike's not just bringing on just some dude. Like when I bring you on my platform, I let people know I'm not just bringing you on because you're my boy. I'm bringing you on because you're my boy, and you know what the fuck you talking about. Like I'm going to give you an opportunity to get into your bag, and people are going to see that you know what the hell you're talking about. And you
That was
did that
me
for me.
playing program director. I've always tried to do that, bringing multiple people on. And it's
Yeah.
like, and it should be a credit to you too. Like Shep, now I would assume that he has a consistent shift, maybe once a
I
weekend.
believe so, right? He does like the 10 to 2
Actually, it's
a.m. or
like,
something.
it
Yeah,
shows you at minimum you're on that level.
I would think so. I mean, I've always felt I could do that type of talk.
But
I
he also
hate those
did some like
shifts.
he did some like spiritual work in the deep south, man. So I mean, he's got God working harder for him.
Hey, look, hey, whatever it takes. Sometimes if you gotta believe in the Most High, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it takes. If it's still
Remember that? He
Ramadan
went
for
to go
those
teach,
out there, like however you got to get it, get it.
oh my God. I just got finished 3 hours ago with 72-hour fast. I was trying to like do my
Man,
Ramadan style. I try to respect all religions.
yeah, dude,
You know
it's
what? You
it's
know what's
tough,
really
man.
opened up my knucklehead? Like, dude, New Yorkers or Long Islanders, we think the world revolves around us.
Mm-hmm.
What's really opened my head is like learning about the Muslim fighters. Not only because they're so good, it's like, why are they good? Oh,
You
they're
learn their
devout to
culture,
the religion. They
the
don't drink. They don't
discipline.
smoke.
Right,
They're not hanging
right,
out with Diddy.
right. Yeah,
It's like I've learned it through Khabib, and it's like
yeah,
it just
yeah.
showed you when the news stories went up. My mother learned about Khabib because of the Conor fight. My whole family learned about
Mm,
Khabib because of the Conor fight, and they go, "Oh, look at that angry Muslim jumps the cage, attacks poor Irish guy," and
right.
I'm like, "You
And then you
motherfuckers
add the
didn't
context. Yeah, yeah.
see
See,
the shit
see
that he went through."
that
I was
that
like,
that. But see, that's why that's important. Because if you weren't there, if you weren't the type of person to do the knowledge and do the science, that narrative would have continued. That narrative would have just went unchallenged, right? You know what I'm saying? But
"It's a
you're able to
cycle.
get the
Big on
context.
breaking the cycle. My dad's a psycho. I'm trying to not be a psycho, so I'm trying to
Yeah,
break the cycle."
that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
It's dude. If I could give you any advice, I talked to Greg
Yeah.
while you were taking the shit. Don't tell me there was computer issues. I'm
Okay.
kidding. But I was talking
My
with Greg. I'm
Comcast
kidding.
company would tell you different, but
Kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah.
I said, Greg, do not have kids until you are ready. That is the best advice I can give you because, dude,
Mm.
it is
It's
blood.
altering, right? It's life altering.
It is. Yeah, man. I dropped drinking. I dropped smoking. That's
Wow.
why it's like it's been. You talk about sacrifices. My best friend's a cop, and it's like,
Mm.
dude, cops can drink, and they're like at the bar.
They can do a lot of
They're giving
things.
me
Yeah.
Jameson. I'm like, dude, I told you. I was like, all right, cheers, right over the shoulder. Like
yeah.
it's it's a sacrifice because a beer and a freaking hamburger, a cheeseburger, wine with pasta, like. But it's like, you know what?
Right.
I know what that did to me. I was foggy, cloudy mind, and I was going with the lazy take.
Mm.
And I think Carton could even talk about I think he's made major changes besides just stop gambling. Like I feel like
Mm.
he stopped being like a big time knucklehead with like drinking and smoking, maybe keeping it
It
toned
definitely
down.
adds clarity. It definitely does when you're no longer committed to that lifestyle of just every weekend hitting the
You're numbing yourself.
streets.
You're
Yeah,
numbing yourself.
yeah. Like it's alcohol is a depressant, and let's go ahead and take off the ANT. It depresses you. Like if you get caught up in the alcohol too much, if you get caught up in the vices too much, and I think the sad trend now is I'm seeing a lot of dudes get stuck in this gambling shit because it's so easy now. It's easy access.
Somebody says it's the worst vice ever because
It's a
it's
horrible
endless.
vice, man. Yeah, yeah,
And it's from your phone now.
right. And it's so easy. And that's the
It's not
technology, the gift
going
and
to
curse
the
of technology.
dispensary. It's not rolling the joint. There's not a process to it.
Right,
It's like
right.
it's
It's literally just
just like
open the
going on
phone
social media.
and you can bet on anything at any time. There's always something available to bet on.
I heard you could bet on WWE now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, how is this even available? How is this not a thing?
This
Like,
is
we know it's
nuts.
entertainment, like it's scripted. So how are you able? Like, it's weird. Like, you telling me WWE employees ain't cashing in on that stuff? Like, once they know who's going to be winning, I'm going all in. I'm putting a couple
Sam,
G's up.
when are we getting you on SNY, man? I feel like SNY has kind of they've loosened up the tie, the button and tie. Shout out to
Hey,
my boy Dexter Henry.
Dexter's cool. I've seen him on there. I've seen some clips
Oh,
online. He's solid.
Karan, Karan Barron, or he does sometimes spots on SNY as well. Really cool dude. He does boxing stuff. That's how I learned about him being on. He's like a
Okay.
co-host with Dexter on some.
Okay.
Chef's even made an appearance. Like it's
Oh, word? Yeah, I mean, look, you know me, like, I'm sometimes I feel like I'm anti-establishment, but it's really not. I'm anti-gatekeepers. If someone
right.
thinks I'm good enough and wants to give me a shot, I'm never gonna not take the shot. Like
I'm gonna put you
when,
on then. I'm gonna connect, like send a DM to one of the guys at SNY. Be
yeah,
like, yo,
I'm never
you guys get
anti
to
that.
bash the Knicks. I got a guy for you.
Yeah, like or just to talk real about the Knicks. Like I love to bury the Knicks because it's so easy and it's fun to do.
What?
But
You a
even
Knicks fan?
talking real, huh?
You a Knicks fan or a Nets fan?
No, I was
Oh,
never a Knicks fan, never a Nets fan. I
Lakers.
was a Bulls fan back in the day. I was a Bulls fan back in the day. So I grew up hating the Knicks because all of my friends were Knicks fans. And so Knicks fans were always delusional about how good they were. And I'm like,
Chris
my team
Russo
literally
of
has Michael
basketball,
Jordan. Stop talking to me.
bro. You're Chris Russo of basketball, right? Coming over
I
here with
would
the
hope
San
I'm better than
Francisco
that, but
Giants.
yes, I'm a natural contrarian. I'm a natural contrarian. I've been told that in good ways and bad ways I'm a natural contrarian.
I
Everyone
just
else
think
goes
maybe
left.
you
I'm like,
see
well,
both.
why don't I? I'm just gonna go right. I don't know why I'm gonna go right, but I'm gonna go right because all of y'all are going left. I don't like that everyone is going in that
They
left
said
direction.
literally right down. I was like, "What are you?" I was like a diary. Like,
Yeah.
screw you guys. I'm going to right.
Yeah, is I when I look back on some of the things that I've done, I'm like, yeah, that was definitely the contrarian in me. Like me just like I became a Bears fan because everyone in my house was rooting for the Giants when they played in the 80s. Like that was me as a kid, not even knowing what the fuck a contrarian was. But everyone else is rooting for this team. Okay, I want the other team to win. Like that was just me. So like that's why when it came to the Knicks shit, all my friends were Knicks fans. Guess what? I'm gonna spend the whole time we in the cafeteria giving you all the reasons why your team is trash.
Is this
I'm gonna
Spreewell
go
days?
home and do the research. I'm gonna go home and read the newspaper and come in the next day and have all the stats, all the information to bury you and your team.
I bet you had a lot of friends back then. You're like, I'm gonna bury your
Yes.
head.
Yeah. I'm gonna bury your team tomorrow. Make sure you
That's
have
what
my
separates
chocolate
it.
milk.
I remember like when I like people will get together like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old for like the World Series or Super Bowl. Like yeah, the Knicks. I remember they're staying up late to watch the Spurs kick the Knicks ass as a youngin'. But it's like
Great
you
time.
see yourself separating from your peers. Like, no, I really care about this sporting event that I'm watching. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you just know more. Like that's always been the thing. Like the knowledge for me is the key to how I think I stand out. Cause it's like I'm not just I love basketball and I like to play it, I like to watch it, I like to study it. I like to go back and rewatch old games and learn from that. I like
yeah,
to
you were
like
doing YouTube stuff, right? Breaking
yeah,
down.
like that was my thing. I would go back and rewatch old games. I want to bring that back, but you get fucking copyright strikes every time you watch an old game. So I have to find a way to do that somewhere else. But like,
You were live? I was playing music. I was playing
and
last week.
nothing happened? No strikes
I
or
played
anything?
a whole Creed song. This
Oh
guy
shit.
asked what song he wants for his karaoke. And bro, there's a market for that. If you have somebody who's like there's a lot of personalities. Like social media, you can be your own personality. Like if people
Yeah.
like you enough.
Yeah.
Dude's got 5,000 followers. He joined the
Wow.
stream. He's got people commenting. We
Wow.
did a karaoke session, and he did it from his basement on a phone. I'm the one with the setup, but he's
Yeah.
the
Yeah, that's
so,
wild.
dude. It's so crazy. He was so appreciative. He goes, "Yo, I've never had anybody introduce me like this. It feels so great." And he's just doing videos at his day job.
That's
Like that's
great.
what made
That's
it.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing, bro. The power of the
it's
internet, bro.
crazy. It's
And then having the
crazy.
balls to put yourself out there like that's another thing. Like for
I
a
know. I thought
long
of.
time,
I know
I
my
wasn't
line.
sure if I want to do video. Like I was so doing the podcast was just so I was so used to it. It was so easy. Cause it's like, all right, just edit the edit the audio, put a little bumper on the front, bumper on the back, done, put it out. Now it's like, oh shit, what's my camera angle? Oh shit, how does the video look? No shit, now I gotta put graphics on the screen to keep people engaged. Like it's a whole nother beast.
Yeah,
And
you're killing it on the shorts, the YouTube shorts.
that shit takes a lot of work, man. It
They
takes
ain't short. It is long work.
it takes a lot of fucking work. Sometimes I hate it, but then the worst is I'll do it short and it'll take me literally a couple hours to put the whole shit together. And then it goes out and it's mid. And like it's like that reaction of like I did all that shit and it can't even crack 500 views. I can't even get 10 likes on this motherfucker. Like I just spent half my day on this 30-second clip and I can't even get whatever. But then you do it and then your shit pops and you get 5K and you get a couple of new followers or subscribers. And then you're like, oh, this shit is fly. This shit is amazing. This shit is dope. It's fucking dopamine. It's like crack. It's like you get that instant fix of like, I did something good. I'm getting validation. Like, okay, this is actually good. But I have learned to just ignore what the results is. Because I may think I did a great video. Like I think on this channel, I put up a great video, what I felt was a great video, talking about NFL free agency and the money and all that stuff. It did nothing. But I felt like it was a really good video. And I still think it's a very good video. Just the algorithm didn't do its algorithm thing to push it. So it is what it is. But I still will vouch that that's a good video. I meant what I said and I enjoy the content. And that's all that matters at the end of it.
Look at my
Enjoying the
Instagram.
content.
I literally had a local Brooklyn boy. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. He should be in the UFC in 3 years. Issa Sultan.
Okay.
6,500 views on Instagram. Like, I put up a clip of an interview from the Job with the guy who's got 1.1 million followers on Instagram. 260 views. I'm like,
what the fuck?
And I did it on the fight night, and I'm like, okay, so maybe don't do it on
Right.
fight nights. Like,
Right.
it's when you catch it. You never.
It truly is a guessing game, bro.
Dude, the video is so shitty. No offense to my boy Issa Sultan.
Yeah.
The video is so shitty that got 6,500 views, and
Right.
the video took me a couple of hours to do the one that got 260.
Oh, that's the worst. It's the worst. And
And I'm like, "Can I delete it?"
I've had to learn how to just ignore that type of stuff because I used to get like really caught up in, well, how well did it do? Well, was it well received? Did people like it? Is there people at least in the comments? All that type of silly shit. And reading as I do with anything that I invest in, I'm like reading about it, studying it. I want to know more about it, how it works, all that type of stuff. All this shit is a crapshoot, bro. Or in the case of TikTok, they can manually choose who goes viral. So it's like, oh, so either it's luck or they just so happen to like whatever you're talking about and they push a button and then the shit is everywhere. Like, oh, then I don't care then. Like, I don't care what my results are because it's literally nothing is organic anymore. Like, there's no real organic engagement because the algorithm has to help push you along. Or in the case of a TikTok, you have to get someone up top, executive or whatever, can push a button and make your shit go. So then there's nothing organic.
Have you gotten some crazy views on it? I heard they're giving away views. Like on some videos, you're getting 2.5K. Like, have you seen like something cracked? Like, oh
I've
shit.
definitely have run some, but to see the return on the investment is horrible. So like, let's say like TikTok, I'll do it. I've done a couple of videos that have hit 5 figures. I've hit 10K on a couple of them,
Nice.
but I might get 1 follower out of it. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Because if I could do a short on here on YouTube and do 1K and get like 3 subscribers. So that investment is worth it to me. Like, all right, I'll put this out. I get 1,000 views. I might get 1 to 3 subscribers. Whereas I could go to TikTok, I could do 10,000. I got one that I think is like 20,000. And I think I got two followers off of that. And I'm like, that math is not mathing. Like, how is 20,000 people looking at this, engaging with it, commenting on it, whatever, but only 2 people decided to fuck with me out of 20,000? Like, that doesn't make sense. Instagram is the same way. I'm not a fan of Instagram because of the same thing. I do numbers on Instagram, but my following doesn't equate that. It doesn't match up. Like, I'll do 5K on a reel and I might get 1 follower. And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense. Because if I do 5K on a YouTube short, I know I'm getting like 3 to 5 subscribers out of that. But on these other platforms, I don't get that return. That's why I got the most people on YouTube. I had the most of anything on YouTube. Everywhere else is like a struggle bus, and I don't understand it.
I wonder, man. And no matter what, if you get on NBA TV, SNY, whatever, continue to do the Sam D, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I've
Because I don't know if Shep is still doing his thing, and he got some views on some videos.
Yeah, I see him. He's posting content. He's posting content from the studio and shit like that. It's good. It works.
Is it on his YouTube though? Like, keep the
he stopped the YouTube. I don't know why he stopped.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
He had
stop the octagon.
No. Like, look, he had the subscribers to make money. I don't know if he had the watch time to make money, but he had over 1,000 subscribers on his YouTube. All he needed was the hours, and he could have been getting a Google check.
Now he can plug his YouTube on the air.
He should.
Don't stop.
You guys, if he wouldn't have stopped, he would definitely be monetized. He would be getting CBS checks and Google checks.
Every so say he does the Saturday or Sunday show, he could do a show on Wednesday, a live stream on Wednesday.
Yeah, and promo that he's going to be on CBS on the weekend, whatever, and then come back that next week live stream and recap what he talked about, advance stories further. Like that's the whole point. Like that's the opportunity now. It's like you're using traditional platforms only to push that audience to your independent platform. Like, and
Bingo.
even though we don't own our YouTube channel, it's still enough of a monetization standpoint where it's like a 70-30 split to where you're getting 70% of the bread. Like, that's basically your paycheck
What
with
numbers
the
have you heard?
regular taxes.
I heard 1 million views equals a $2,500 check.
I've heard more than that, not much more. I've heard like 7K.
For
I
1
think
million?
I think it depends on your niche. Like, some niches don't make a lot of money. Like, I think the gaming niche doesn't make a lot of money because there's not a lot of ads. The people that pay for the ads, they're not putting a lot of money behind it. But like,
Yeah,
if you do, like, honestly, the sports niche is up there. Like, I know dudes that when I was at Bleacher Report, I know dudes that was making 6 figures and damn near 7 figures off the sports shit,
Over a YouTube channel?
off a YouTube channel. So it's there in the sports world and the tech world. Now that I'm heavy into that space, and that's kind of why I wanted to tap in with the car stuff and try to branch out to where I'm not just talking sports. I can talk cars. I can talk whatever. I could talk about this microphone and why I like it and da da da. Like, all that stuff is another opportunity to build and to grow. So like, how you built your own
Amazon
setup.
influencer, by the way.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, there's money in that too. Yeah,
Tried to
you
get-
have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you built your own studio. Imagine if you did a tutorial on how you built that studio and linked everything that you bought in the Amazon shit.
And it's so crazy. What I've been playing with, like over here, are dryer parts, like from a dryer. And I had to watch like 5 YouTube tutorial videos. Dude, shitty quality. Absolute shit. But it's like you're there because you need it.
Right, yeah. And it'll always get views because someone will always have that dryer. And they
Dude, the
will
guy's
always
got
want to
his
know.
phone. He's like barely filming. He's trying to hold the object, but then he's moving his phone. He's like, hey, I'm sorry if I'm moving my phone, guys.
And
13,000, 16,000 views. I'm like, what? This is wild.
and I think that's where we need to capitalize on us, right? Because we have the ability to know what quality is. We have the ability, from a producer standpoint, we know what looks good, what sounds good, etc. That's the bridge. Like, that person just had the knowledge, right? Didn't have a lot of equipment, but he had the knowledge. So he was able to run the numbers up and do a decent enough video for him. But
Ken Berger being the writer versus Ken Berger being the writer and the co-host, doing guest spots, being entertaining.
Correct.
Who was that guy who was always on Rome is Burning, the San Fran guy, chubby guy?
Ray
Short
Rado.
tub. Yes. See, it's like he had his own type of personality that people would like to have on their show.
Yeah. So it's like,
Knowledge is good.
Yeah, knowledge is good, but if you don't have that personality, you're out of here. You really
Like,
can't.
I've never really had the flex, like truly flex, like the MMA stuff. It's like I try to be surface stuff a lot of the time because I think the market,
man.
MMA, Rogan tries to be too hardcore, naming some Japanese fighter from 1989. I think the money is in the casual. Like,
okay.
Like,
I fuck with that.
That's why, and it's not. I'm not even like faking being a fan of what Jake Paul is doing. It's like, dude, motherfucker's a YouTuber. Now he's boxing.
Yeah, he's capitalizing. He's striking while the iron is hot. Like, you have to do that. Like, any way you could cross promote. Like,
he's in fucking Dallas Stadium.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's in Jerry's world selling the bitch out.
That's crazy.
Selling the bitch out.
The UFC has never sold out there. They've been scared to go there because they don't want to have empty seats.
Right. Like,
and what is it? Is it 80 or 100? Something?
I think 80 for football, but I think because of boxing, they can shrink the ring. So, like, they can put more seats. I think they get close to 100, probably. Yeah.
Wow. Jake fucking Paul versus Mike Tyson.
So, bro, I as much as when I first heard about that shit, I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. But then I kept thinking about it. I'm like, why do I care that it's bad? It's something to talk about. Like, no lie, I immediately was like, oh, okay, I'll have Ike on and we'll just talk. We'll laugh and joke about this shit. Because I'm like, I know this is going to be hilarious, no matter the outcome, whether we think it's staged, whether you think it's just going to be the fixes in regards to it being an exhibition, no matter what the fuck you think is going to happen, the fact that we're getting that fight, the fact that Tyson is out here doing promos, he's out here doing workout vids like it's 88, like, and he's doing it against a fucking YouTuber. Like, that's amazing that this is what we can get in 2024, bro.
Middle of July, no football, fucking baseball.
Baseball,
No
only
basketball.
all we got is baseball. Perfect
It's
timing.
gonna- If there's 280 million subscribers to Netflix worldwide, I'd say it does 50 million.
Easy.
It's appointment TV. It's appointment TV.
Yeah, like, cause like it's the freak show of it.
Netflix, they're so good at putting the shit in front of you that they want you to see.
Yeah. It'll be in your queue every time you open the fucking app. It'll be promo to death.
Don't play next. I don't want to see it again.
Yeah. And I think that's where we're going. Like, the live event, the live spectacle, that's now going to be the next thing. Like, now we got second screen experiences, you know, like the Manning cast or the coaches cast or whoever, that type of stuff.
Right. We
The
can't get
next
enough.
thing. Yeah, like that's why I'm like the traditional format. Like, look, there's still part of me that will always respect radio and sports talk radio especially. But it's like, to me, it's like, yo, dogs, it's evolved so far past that now that it's like, why would I ever want to do that now? Like, there's so many other things you could be doing.
I don't know what's taking them so long. It should start on YouTube and then be simulcasted on radio. Like Maggie and Perloff should be a
Right.
YouTube show where they do, maybe at the end of the hour, they have a 5-minute block for commercials or something, or live reads. Like, but the long form live chat, like, I'm sure everybody wants to hear. Hardcore fans, Maggie, what did she eat for dinner? Perloff, how's his dating life? Like, that will be a part of it. That's just more of them.
Dog. It's
We're all
2 hour
brands. We're all brands.
Yeah, yes. And I think that part is, look, this is something me and G always talked about, when I was telling him, like, he would be promoting his old station's brand at the ESPN radio stuff. And I'm like, that's cool, but make sure you push your own shit too. Like, don't just keep building up their brand. Like, you're a brand. They hired you because you built your own brand. Like, don't forget, you got to keep building your own brand. Like, sure, do whatever you got to do to keep the bills paid. You know
That's what I'm saying with Shep.
Yeah, build your shit on the side. Don't ever like negate that. Like, I had to take a break from doing this channel because I had to pick up and move to Connecticut. But as soon as I got settled up here, I was right back to it. Like, I wasn't just gonna let this channel just lay dormant. Like, I could have chilled. I could have said, all right, that was cool when I was laid off. I had a little, you know what I'm saying, 9-month run to do YouTube hardcore. And all right, yeah, I saw some results, but now I got another job again. So I'm just going to do that. Like, nah, I'm like, nope. Well, what's my setup? What's my lighting? Well, what's my background going to be? Let me upgrade my lenses. And I built this shit, man. I built it just like I built it in Jersey. I built it here again in Connecticut. And I'm the subscribers are growing, the views are growing, and I'm like, it's like I'm picking up where I left off because I didn't stay dormant. And these shows are not understanding that these are 2-3 hour radio shows. They could be like, and Levitard is learning this. They got the YouTube going off rip. Soon as the show starts, the YouTube live stream starts up at the same time. So they're recording the podcast and they're doing the YouTube at the same time. So they can go to the chat, they can go to all of this stuff, and they're interacting with the chat and they're referencing the chat. And that's how you keep, you're building 2 audiences at the same time. Where else can you do that besides the internet? At radio, you're just talking to one audience. When someone turns that dial and finds your station, that's the only way. Now you got that person and I got people on YouTube, and I got people on Instagram Live, and I got people on TikTok, I got people on LinkedIn. Like, all these places have these live functions that you could be taking advantage of.
I
Twitter, you can
know.
go live. Like, there's a
You know,
whole
on
bunch of
YouTube,
spots.
like there's a difference from the video section and the live section. It's like if
Correct.
FAN ever wanted to use it as like a breeding ground, like a farm system, their YouTube channel with like Pat Boyle, like does 4 slots a week, or freaking Marash does his own podcast on their YouTube page, like the Marash Cast or something. Like,
But where's his YouTube?
right. I think too many people are banking on the brand.
And I
That's
and I understand. I
very
get that.
fortunate that my company lets me put my Octagon stuff in my portfolio, links
That's
and the
awesome.
name of it, and I'm like,
That's awesome.
it's
That you still
cool.
have your rights, and that's important because, you know, if you branch out again on your own, you still have that catalog, you still have that library, you still have that name and that brand. That's your brand. They hired you in part because you showed the capability to build your brand. That's important. Like Greg still has the word with G. That's his brand. He built that. He's built that, and he's taken it to multiple markets now.
Right?
Like, I've built the Sam D. That's now become my shit, and I've built it, and it's getting a name. It's establishing a brand. So even if I were
It's
to
here, man.
get
Some
a
big famous
SNY
host
thing,
saying, and I'm joined by the
the
Sam
Sam
D.
D.
There's gonna be somebody
Because,
who loves to say it, man. Have you visualized it? Have you
dude,
visualized
I see it being a thing. I have a goal. I have a few goals in mind in terms of what I ultimately want this YouTube channel to look like. A lot of it is visual. I've really gotten into the visual aspect of it. I was a big audio head. That's why I got into radio in the first place. I was a DJ
all of us?
before that. So, like, I've always been audio, but the video shit definitely adds another dimension.
Well, we remember Mike and Mike, ESPN2, Colin Cowherd when he was in
Yeah.
Portland, Mike and the Mad Dog 15 years ago, and Rogan, the way he does it, the live video podcast. It's like now it's another growth of the game. Like maybe 50 years ago, salespeople could just call, but now salespeople have to know how to have a social. Salespeople have to, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
everything is like the competition never stops.
Never. It never does. Like, and you have to, taking the time out to do stuff like this, taking the time out to build your own content, taking the time out to go to events, to network, to use your resources. That's the grind. That's the part that a lot of folks, like, I know for a fact, I met a lot of people that claim they wanted to do what I'm doing.
Bro, I'm going to Atlantic City this weekend with no hotel, going to the event and coming back three and a
That's the
half hours.
that's the grind. Like, that's the part folks don't see. They think, oh, you probably get invited to all these events. You probably get in the you're probably right next to the octagon. You're right by the cage and shit. Da, da, da. Like, yeah, but this is what I got to do that.
Right.
This is the time that I'm missing at home with my wife and my family to go do that, and then to come over and do content around it. Not only are you going to do all of that, and then go back home, but then you're going to do content around it, and then you're going to edit that content, and then you're going to repurpose that content, and then you're going to promote that content, and then you're going to do it again at the next event, and then it rinse and repeat every single event.
You have to love it.
Have to.
Yeah,
It's the only way. It's the only way. Well, look, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I appreciate you coming on as
Oh yeah,
always.
no more. I'm trying to break my record.
We are nowhere near that record. We are nowhere near that record.
That was so funny. I had the double lights beaming in my eyes for like 3.5 hours. Like, yo,
Bro.
this is audio only. I'm like, mother.
Yeah.
My eyes are still bugging.
But see, shit like that, it made me realize, like, yo, you got to start doing video. Like, that conversation we had, I was like, yo, that would have been a fire video. Like, being able to look at you and go back and forth, that was dope. But I was like, yeah, but the video clips went crazy. So like stuff like that is what made me realize like, nah, video is the next step. Like the audio shit is cool, but you can't just rely on that. You got to get the video. You got to get a camera. You got to learn that shit and da 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 da. So that part of the reason why I'm doing this is because of that experience. Because I thought it was hella dope, but we didn't have no video recording of it.
Always a good time with you, man.
Always the same here, brother.
Greg,
same here.
Greg, basically, I look at it. He's a segment, man. He's not ready for this podcast game.
he's all
Guys, I gotta go to
segmented
commercial
out
break.
because of Chat It Up. He's got to carry a whole 5-man ensemble. He's like, I'm not coming over here to carry 2 other dudes, man. I'm carrying enough dudes over there already. So I'm a bail. But yo, definitely when Tyson, Paul, or anytime you want to come on, man, like just hit me because I always value your opinion. I always enjoy shooting the shit with you, talking industry. The Knicks are going to make the playoffs. So if you want to come on and do some Knicks talk.
Dude, I watched every Knicks playoff game, every Jets game last year. So
okay, you're getting back into it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, maybe like 15 games. The Black Friday game, I had the noise on with the Jets and the Dolphins.
That works. That's fine. That's fine.
Dude, Simeon's first start, I was like, this is bad.
Yeah. No one wants to watch that anyway.
Knicks are 4 seed. All right, we get the freaking home court. Let's go.
Yeah,
When,
I mean, look, I can't wait for the Knicks to make the playoffs. They may even win a round.
Let's see, 28 plus 43, 30. What is that? 73 minus 2.
They only got a few games.
You got about 10 games left.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Knicks are legitimately good.
Who can beat Can the Knicks beat the Bucks? That's my only concern.
In a 7-game series, no. If it were a 5-game series, like when we were growing up, maybe I would be more inclined to lean more towards they have a better chance there. But 7 games, and I got Dame and Giannis, I can't see the Knicks beating Dame and Giannis 4 out of 7. They could definitely get a game or 2.
So they're going to win a round.
Push it to 6 games, depending on the matchup. Like who would they face right now?
Magic.
Let me pull it up. The Magic.
So then how does that work? The 4-5.
They're beating the Magic.
1-8.
So, 1-8 versus the 4-5 and the 2-7 versus the 3-6.
So then who would the Knicks?
I'll pull it up. Let me
would
see.
It be Cavs versus Pacers? That would love that. If it was, I'm trying to think of the easy road for the Knicks.
4-5. No, they would have to play Boston, the Boston Philly winner. 1-8 plays the 4-5. So Knicks Boston. Good luck with that. Again, you might be able to get the 6 games. You might can make it interesting. You can make the Celtics sweat.
Yes.
But I don't think you're beating them.
I'll take 2 wins as a minimum. If they win a series and then 2 wins against the Celtics, I'll take that. That's a good season.
Okay.
Because
I think the key, they should actually start losing. But Tibbs will never do it. I think the 6th seed is the soft spot.
Because they already beat the Cavs too.
Yeah. They could beat the Cavs again. And then if the Bucks are playing Miami, I'm not saying Miami's going to beat the
Miami
Bucks,
knocks them out.
But I'm saying they did it. They've done it before. So that's why I'm like, you want to be in that 3-6 range because Miami, if everything holds firm, and Miami can pull the upset, now it's Knicks Miami with a chance to get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Dude, if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's like
the city will melt down. The city will have a complete meltdown. The city
will have a heart
is
attack.
yearning for that. Yeah. Like it'll be a ticker take parade just for them to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. It'll be a parade. It'll just be a parade. Like, yeah. So that's my early Knicks stuff. Is like they're a good team. They're going to make the playoffs. They should advance at least 1 round of the playoffs. But if they want to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it all depends on who that second round matchup is.
Right.
Because most teams, all the teams at the top are scared shitless of Miami. No one wants to face Miami.
They turn it up. Is it the same roster?
More or less. They've made some trades. They got Terry Rozier in Miami now. They got rid of Kyle Lowry. Uh,
No, why?
because he's older than me, or he's more out of shape than I am right now.
Yeah, but
He's like,
he's just a fucking thorn. Just one game, a playoff series, he's a thorn.
yeah, but I think in Miami they're looking for dogs. They're looking for healthy dogs, and Kyle
And,
Lowry
and
hasn't been healthy since
do you
Toronto.
believe in this roster more than last year for the Heat?
Yes, only because they're healthier this year. They weren't healthy last year.
Jeez.
So that team that they didn't have Tyler Hero last year.
Who's the Gabriel guy?
I
Is it-
mean,
yeah, Gabriel? Headband, I think number 3.
let me see. Let me
Dude,
look up the
I
roster.
couldn't miss against the fucking
Oh,
Knicks.
last year. Yeah, he's with the Lakers now. He hasn't played a game this season.
Oh,
Gabe Vincent. Yeah, he
that
hasn't
guy
played a
was
game.
so annoying. That was so
Yeah.
frustrating.
He was their second best player. He was the second best player.
And who was the tall dude? They had a tall dude who was
Bam Adebayo.
yes. Do
Yeah.
they still have him?
Yep, he's still there. The core is the same.
Did he get
Jimmy
paid?
Butler.
Did he get paid though after last year?
I don't think last year was the year he got paid. I think he got paid the year before that. So he's
Okay,
good.
that's
He
key,
ain't leaving. He ain't leaving no time soon. He
I
ain't
appreciate you being patient. This is how much out of the mix I am.
leaving. Hey, no, it's all good. See, and you see
What,
how I'm just like,
how
nah,
old
I'll break
are
it down for
you?
you.
The Gabriel guy?
Yeah. Nah, it's all good. Like that's again, if SNY gives me a chance, that's how I could just break shit down, simple, smooth, no shade in it, just straight analysis and get it done. Easy.
They should do SNY podcast, man, if they have it. Because I think we're all long take guys. Like, yeah, we could be hot for a minute for the TV, but like Shep's segment was exhausting. And he was on it that night. It's like you come off the bench and you're just hitting threes,
Shit,
but it's like
shots. Yeah.
if you don't hit
You
your
have to
first
come
shot,
off gunning.
like, you could
I did
stumble.
a-
You might
Yeah, it's weird because it's funny that you mentioned that. Like I did a show that Greg actually hooked me up with this live streaming like sports betting show, Line Sniper or whatever, and it was like one of those fake ESPN shows, like Around the Horn or whatever. It was like a bootleg version of that. So
okay.
I had to learn how to shorten my takes because not only am I working with 3 other people or 2 other people or 1 other person, they have timed segments, just like, you know, the Around the Horn show. Like you can't give a 4-minute rant. You can't get into that bag. It's 30 to 60 seconds. Get in, get out. So as much as that show wasn't that great and the experience was kind of meh, it gave me the experience of, oh, shorten your take, knowing how to get in and get out. And that's what's helped me, no lie, with like the YouTube shorts that I do. Like when I'm talking into my phone, I'm leaning off that experience of, yo, you got 60 seconds, get in, get out.
Like my wife's like, can you do the betting, like the 5 or like the 5 fights in 60 seconds? She's like,
Yo, that's,
and I'm like,
yeah,
all of a
it's
sudden I record,
practice.
it's 3:29. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's yo, I think you should try it though. I think you should try it. Continue to try that. Because the short form, it's hit or miss, but the short form
I
can
have to
build your
write
long
3
your-
points or something down.
something. Like
You see Jake Paul Tyson, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, well, you know, Jake Paul, I really do appreciate what he's doing for the YouTube side. And it's like, what?
cut
What?
all that
No,
out.
no.
Cut all that out. Now it's like your video. She's like,
Mike
this
Tyson, the
is why
cannabis side?
Jake Paul is gonna knock out Mike Tyson. Boom, that's the hook. If I'm scrolling and you pop up saying this
Oh,
is
this
why
is the first
Jake
line?
Paul is
I like
gonna knock out Mike Tyson, I'm like, oh shit, why? Like that, you
Right.
gotta have that hook, that first couple of seconds. So like the Tesla video I did, it's like, here's the one thing I don't like about the new Tesla model, whatever. It was like, ooh, I got him early. Like, what? I love the Tesla. What don't you like about it? Here's the one thing.
You know what? I didn't even realize it. You made me have to watch till the end. Like I really enjoyed
Because
those.
I'm learning this shit, bro. Like you gotta have that hook. You gotta have that initial 5 seconds to lock people in because we're just scrolling. That's all we're doing. We're scrolling. I do it myself. When I'm scrolling on TikTok or on Twitter or whatever, I'm just scrolling until I see something that interests me, till something grabs my attention and makes me watch. So those hooks in your videos, it matters. Like, you have to be able to know how to do that. You gotta be able to lock someone's like attention span, because we all of our attention spans have gone to shit over the last 10 years because of these fucking apps.
It's true. It's true.
If you can't get me in the first 5 seconds, maybe 10, if I'm really fucking bored, I'm out. I'm scrolling.
That's
I'm
what
on to
I've
the
tried
next
to
one.
do on Twitter is like my digital internet friends, and then Instagram is like the more closer to home, the octagon stuff. And
Okay.
it's like all I do is like just like everything, retweet everything. Like
Yeah.
if you know, like,
Yeah.
I retweet like some randos on Twitter because I'm like I like them, or
That's it.
Instagram. I'm like blocked on Instagram, shadow blocked. Have you ever not been able to comment on somebody's? It says that I broke the guidelines, dude. All I comment is like
Wow.
cheer hands, prayer hands, and hearts.
Right.
Like,
And you
like
still
I
on
broke
shadow
the
ban. That's
guidelines.
nasty. That's nasty. Well, I had a video on Twitter like a couple of months ago that was like it was a short form video, and I was just tweeting it out, and the shit came up flagged for being sensitive or sensitive content. And I'm like, it's a fucking video about the NBA.
Oh, why are you talking about Brady's hat?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what are we? So, like, I took a screenshot, and I'm like, wait, the app is telling me, because I went from my podcast account to look, because my cousin told me he couldn't see the video, and I'm like, what do you mean you can't see the video? He was like, it's not there. So I went from my podcast account and looked, and the shit said flagged for insensitive or sensitive content. I'm like, it's literally a video about the NBA All-Star game. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is sensitive content. Like, it's.
Did you dispute it? Like I try to dispute it. I'm like, they're like, are we wrong? I go, yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah. I challenged the shit. I don't know what happened to it, but I still have the screenshot. But it was like some really weirdo shit. So that's why, like, as
You're on
much
a
as
list somewhere now.
yeah, probably. Yeah. I still love Twitter. Twitter is still my favorite all-time social media app, but it's gotten so bad. But there's no alternative. Like, I've tried a couple of the alternatives, and they're just not Twitter. As much as I don't fuck with Elon, the app is still good enough. The people that I like on the app are still using it, so I still fuck with the app.
And I still fuck with you, Sam.
And I fucks with you, Ike, and I appreciate you for coming on. Let me make sure I get your plugs right. Get my little notepad up. GiveMeSport.com. And I'm assuming you're doing the combat sports over there as well.
Yep. Haven't transitioned over to NASCAR yet, but just combat sports right now.
No F1. You're not riding the wave of hopping on F1, acting like you know about fucking Mario Andretti and all that type of bullshit. Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, no. Look, is Jeff Gordon still racing?
Right. The Rainbow Warrior. Come on, man. The jacket was fire.
Doing some big interviews, doing some articles, really
Love it.
fleshing out the expression, and then interviewing local guys. I made a huge mistake. Some guy came to my house in the recording studio. We chatted up for 2.5 hours. It just quick time decided not to work. So it comes with the he told me, he goes, I don't believe you, brother. He goes, it worked. Trust me, it saved. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it didn't. I'm really sorry about this.
I got to get you on Ecamm. Ecamm will take care of that, because like right now I'm live streaming, but it's also recording the live stream.
Yeah, I
So
might have
even
to.
if the live stream goes to shit, I'll still have the recording. So
Good point.
I'll send you that affiliate link. You know what I'm saying? You hook it up. You good money with Ecamm.
Something.
Yeah.
Well, I
All
feel
right,
like this is like $29 a month.
No,
This
definitely
is
not.
nice.
If I could afford it, you definitely can afford it. It's like, trust me, I like cheap shit. I may buy
Don't be fooled
expensive
by the
equipment, but like, You know what I'm saying? Everything else is like, nah. Well, what's the cheapest amount I can pay to get this done? All right, let's see. Okay, so Ike Feldman, make sure I get it right. GiveMeSport.com has been my guest, always the home of Octagon as well. So look up that content on IG and everywhere else on social media. Salute to you for pulling up. It's not the record of 3 hours and whatever minutes, but like the last time. But at least we got 2 hours and 40 something minutes in on this one, and Greg pulled up for 10 minutes of it. So, but I thank you so much for pulling up, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Greg is plus numbers, right? Whatever, it's like a plus player when he's on the court.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Even if
his
8 minutes,
analytics are through the roof right now. Plus minus is crazy.
yes, plus minus is crazy. You're the man, Sam. God bless you,
brother.
God bless Greg.
Same
God
to you as
bless
well.
us all.
Same to you and the family.
Peace.
All right,
Do I just hit
y'all.
him?
I'll make sure Ike pulls up when this whole Tyson Paul shit gets down. We'll be able to do that. So I appreciate everyone for pulling up. I appreciate everyone for tapping in. Let me make sure I get myself full. There we go. So look, that was a little deep dive into something I've been meaning to get into, talking about new media versus old media. If you have any comments about new media, old media, the transitioning of athletes coming into the space where they are now taking over for traditional media, leave it in the comments. I'm probably going to do another standalone video where I just get my thoughts out all exclusively in one point in time on this channel. So if you want to tap into that type of content, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.